So we have the on air. If everyone ready up here?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. And good evening, everyone. And welcome to this, the planning board meeting for Monday, January, wrong J, June 9th, 2025. We are here at the Bellata Meeting Room on the upstairs of our beautiful town hall. If you would like to join us tonight and you are at home, you can come on up and join us. If you want to participate remotely because you're watching on TV, you can use the Zoom link found on the agenda on our website. Click on that, come and join us, or use the call information as well. This meeting, because it's going to be on PAC and everything, is recorded. And yeah, I believe that is everything we have to say. Would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Certainly.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. For those who are longtime regular fans who watch us frequently, tonight's format is slightly different in that before we get to public hearings, we do have a joint meeting coming up with the Open Space Committee. And that will be happening right after public comment, the chair's report, and our board reorganization. So there's a few things, then that joint meeting, and then we will get into public hearings for the evening. All right. Open with public comment.
Hello, Kim Duffy, 1479 Mass Ave. Welcome back from your long break. I've been waiting for you to be here. So I'm not sure if I should be here as a member of the public or a member of the Master Plan Steering Committee, in which I'm happy to wait for the committee report or give you my thoughts now, and then you can decide if you want to continue.
Could I ask you to angle the microphone up towards you just a little? It's
Sure.
not quite getting right from my ear.
Sorry,
Thanks.
I don't like hearing myself so loud. Right, so I don't know if I should be making a public comment or wait for the steering committee report. Does it matter to you?
Doesn't matter to us or to me one bit.
Perfect, okay, great. I'll do it now. So I am a member of the Master Plan Steering Committee, and I wanted to come to the board with a few problems as well as a few solutions that I'd like to propose. Obviously, it would be pending your approval and voting. So as some of you are aware, the Master Plan Steering Committee has, according to the website, 15 voting members, of which have changed a bit throughout some meetings, eliminated and returned, including the Parks and Recreation position and a members at large, which is still not on the committee per the meeting minutes, but is according to the website. As well as, yeah, member at large, Parks and Rec. Finance was removed and brought back on. Anyways, so I guess first it's confusing as to who's actually on the committee based on different sources. Obviously, since there's 15 or 13 members, depending on which one you count, quorum count is very, very high, which makes it very difficult, if not impossible, to schedule a meeting to meet quorum. Because you need 8 members or 7, which is a lot. We also struggle to have successful discussions about what the current master plan is as proposed by the over-under consultant, as well as having unrepresented committees on the committee in terms of like what's on the proposed plan. So there's a lot on the plan that regards parks, open space, agriculture, and we don't have that representation on the committee. Although do note that people can attend as a member of the public, but nonetheless. So, a lot of us are wondering how the committees were chosen to be a part of the steering committee, like the different ones that were selected as to like why, and why some were omitted. So to, let's say, fix these problems, I propose that that you would consider reducing the quorum size for full voting members to 5. It's an odd number that is a common number in most committees, and make alternate members, which would be, 8 alternate members if we kept the committee as it is now. That would allow us to meet quorum more easily, to meet continuously on a more routine basis to fulfill our obligation to have the master plan completed, while also having alternate members who would be eligible to vote if the committee couldn't meet with the original 5.
Is that allowed under open meeting law? Can you have alternate members who don't count towards quorum but can vote if there's not enough for quorum?
Yes, so it is really high level and unclear. It's not specifically stated in open meeting law. It does reference associate and alternative members who don't have voting rights. However, in the creation of the committee or town bylaw, you can create associate members so that you can either at the beginning of the meeting make them voting members at the time, or have a vote in your own board of, if we don't meet these 5, we are allowing the committee, when needed, to indicate at the beginning of the meeting who is a full member at the time. So a couple of options. I did look into it and there wasn't anything specifically stated, although other towns do have local laws about it, but there's nothing really specifically stated for the state. So in my opinion, as long as it's either voted on here or in the town bylaws, it should be okay. A lot of other committees do it, but it all just depends on when you decide, because how can you vote on having an associate member at the time if you don't have a quorum, so you'd have to decide that ahead of time to allow that. But I wouldn't necessarily consider that being a commonplace if we selected the 5 main members who would routinely show up. So that would be a decision.
May I ask a clarifying question? Were you saying for a 5-member quorum or a 5-member board
5-member,
or committee?
I think a quorum of 5 would be appropriate. So it would have to be
a 10-member committee typically.
Or a 5-member board, and then
Well, 9.
that wouldn't,
I apologize, 8 or 9-member committee, because you need to have one more than the halfway point.
Yeah, maybe, because I feel like having 5 minimum there would be appropriate. However, I mean, it all depends on what the board wants. If we want to, prioritize moving the project forward with at least some people's insight, and other people can attend as needed, because I'm sure more than 3 people would go. We're always off by like 1 for quorum. So, if we had if we were 15 members, we'd have a quorum of 8, 13 members, we'd have 7, but so we would have, let's say we would need 5. So it would be, 11 members total if needed, and then 5 for a quorum?
You have, for 5 making quorum, would be 8 or 9 members.
Okay.
Because you need one more than...
Half.
You need more than a majority of members. That is something this board can consider. It isn't something we can address tonight because we don't have that on our agenda. We can talk about it, but we can't hold a vote for it tonight. But that doesn't mean we can't look into it, and we can still discuss some tonight. But I just want to set that expectation. It isn't on our agenda, so we can't hold a vote on it because there needs to be public notice.
Fair.
But I don't need to be the only person who speaks here. I would echo the Master Plan Steering Committee has struggled with finding quorum. I would also say that they do have a meeting now scheduled for the 24th?
25th, I haven't scheduled it yet. I just added my information and saw that we had enough people.
Okay,
So-
there's,
That'll be done tomorrow.
yep, okay.
And just as a thing here, I'm doing a quick bit of research, and like, quorums of less than 50% are not impossible. I don't know what our town structure looks like, but it's not an unheard of thing, as long as it's properly defined. But
Yeah, if the committee or commission is, whatever the word is, like created in its statute or whatever to say like what the quorum is, it can vary from the state law of majority or more.
Okay.
Yep. So if we say that we can have 11 full members, the committee is, or the master plan steering committee can have a quorum of 4 or whatever, that seems to be in line with open meeting law, as long as we specifically define it. But I've never seen that.
Kim, would you mind sending, if you have any convenient documents, I'm not looking to put more on your plate right now. If you have convenient documents, would you mind sending them to me, or if I'm not the chair after we reorg, whoever's the chair after we reorg, so that they can, or I can look at what that next step would be for the committee, so we can understand, do whatever research we need, and kind of figure out where we go from there?
Yeah, I have links for the open meeting law references that I have, as well as, you want me to like send you like a proposal for who would be the main members, or?
Whatever you want to send is always
Okay.
welcome. So, knowing that we have a lot of people waiting, I'd like to table more discussion on this, if the board's okay, until after our public hearings and when we get to the committee reports.
Sure.
Okay, so,
Okay.
and if you don't want to stay for that, I completely understand. It's going to be a bit till we get there.
No worries, I'll stick
But-
around. It's always interesting. I'll learn something new. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment tonight? Seeing none. Okay. Great. Then next up on our agenda is Chair's Report. I like this because I get to come in front of us with good news tonight. We have, and the town has hired an contracted with, technical terms. It has contacted with an interim planner, Ms. Jasmine Faranucci. She has worked in, done planning work in local communities, including Lancaster. She is knowledgeable, personable. I have already worked with her a little in that role. And that means we do have planning services for the town to meet those technical needs. Thank goodness. We do not have the job posting for land use director yet because there's still some internal discussions with the town manager about what those, what that position might look like in the future to make it to make sure we're putting out a job that's actually desirable to planners that are out there. For those who work in the software field, if you hire a developer but also want them to design your front end, or if you hire an engineer and also want them to design your landscaping, those are not like the structural, but like, let's be pretty. Those are things that can happen, but you don't become a software developer because you like designing the front end user interface of the software. So it's about making sure that we have a role that is desirable to the planners that are out there, because there is a planner shortage in Massachusetts and probably broader, but I couldn't tell you because I really happen to care about planners in Massachusetts for fairly obvious reasons. But welcome to Ms. Faranucci, who will be helping out the town. We are grateful for that help. In addition, the planning board does have 2 public information and discussion sessions coming up for the MBTA communities, as we discussed at our May 12th-ish meeting, plus or minus, I don't remember the exact date. But for our meeting in May, we did have a presentation from Community Scale, who shared with us some options. And we have 2 public sessions coming up where members of the public can meet with, basically, I will be giving a presentation about those options with some more details and some local pros and cons for each choice. And then we'll be opening it up for some formal discussion with the public about what do you want to see? Again, MBTA communities is the law passed by the state a couple years ago that we need to be in compliance with by the end of the calendar year. And it says that we basically need to zone a section of town for what's considered medium-density housing. Now, what's considered medium-density housing in the global, broad Massachusetts sense is pretty high density for Lunenburg, where we're gross majority single-family homes. And this is talking multifamily by right, often 8 or more units per acre. It's a different setup. And so we probably want to be thoughtful about where that goes in town. We have some options that could potentially lead to some new housing development, and we could talk about the pros and cons of that. We have one option that lets us take credit for the hard work the town has already done in crafting a 40R district years ago, and lets us make use of that 40R district to partially or completely meet that need as well. So we have some options in front of us. We'll have 2 public info sessions, and this is out on the socials, this is out on the town website, and this is also getting posted around town as well. Wednesday, June 11th at 9:30 a.m. This is explicitly to be able to hit, public meetings are always in the evening. This is to be able to give an option for the seniors who don't go out in the evening, for the 3rd shift, 2nd shift workers who may not be available when we normally have these meetings. Wednesday, June 11th at 9:30 a.m. and Monday, June 5th at 6 o'clock p.m. Both are going to be at the Adult Activity Center, the senior center, the Eagle House, in their main activity room, because that's a nice, friendly space, better for collaborative discussion than up here sitting on high. And board members, if we can make it, it is posted as a meeting so we can speak freely. If we can't make it, Logan and I are working on making sure those are recorded, and I will be getting town members to share their opinions in writing as well, so we do have that documentation to look at. So if you can't make it, you still get all the info.
I expect I should be available for the 2nd meeting. I'm not sure about the one this week.
I did not expect that there would be a lot of board availability then, but that was a request from the Adult Activity Center. I'll use their correct name, and it made sense. It also made sense, frankly, just calendar-wise, trying to find spaces that work at the appropriate times.
Would you repeat the dates?
Sure. Wednesday, June 11th, that's this Wednesday, at 9:30 in the morning. The Lions host their breakfast there, I believe, at 9 o'clock in the morning. So you can go in early, get breakfast for a few bucks, and then while you're munching, chat, learn, discuss. And then Monday, a week from today, June 5th at 6, not June 5th, 16th. I don't know why I wrote 5th in my notes. That's completely incorrect. Thank you.
I'm traveling.
Yeah. Monday, June 16th at 6 o'clock p.m. And that will also be over at the Eagle House Adult Activity Center. Yes, I am. Am I? No, it's that way. Okay. Great. Am I missing anything coming out of the office?
No.
No. Otherwise, the planning schedule is comparatively light. I mean, summer's usually light for us. It's even a little lighter now than typical. I mean, best guess as to why, but there isn't quite as much new construction coming through right now, so we're not getting hit as hard, which also means that Jasmine is going to be able to work with Logan on some of the back-end things with getting OpenGov even more accessible for applications, for looking at some of the back-end processes to help keep planning running smoothly as possible, which means when we do finally hire a town planner, whatever that role looks like, a lot of that minutia will be addressed, and that will leave them more available to work with us on some of our other goals. All right. That would be the chair report. Let everyone know where we are. And again, those MBTA community stuff, tell your friends, show up, have your voice heard. This will go to vote. What's going to happen with that, by the way, is you're going to share your input on our meeting of the planning board on June 23rd. We have to vote on what option we would like our consultant that's been hired through grant money to pursue. Then, over the summer, the consultant is going to take that choice and draft it into all the legalese, bylaw necessity to make it work, as well as get it pre-approved by whichever group in Mass Housing does that. I don't remember if it's EHOLC or a different one, but get it pre-approved so that whatever our plan is, when we hopefully then pass it at town meeting, we know we're safe and we meet the deadline and everything's good. At that info session, I will also cover basically some of the towns that have thumbed their nose at the state. I'll be covering that option as well and kind of what's fallen out of those legal wranglings, so we have a full picture. All right. Board reorganization. We do this every year. This is our first meeting after town election. Mr. Allison was reelected to the board. Congratulations. Mr. McLeod, who was on the board, was elected to the select board. So we do have a vacant seat. But we need to fill the roles of chair, vice chair, and clerk. We also need to get reassign some of our committee roles, the annual MRPC, MJTC. Capital planning is, I'm on that. I'm at the end of my 3-year cycle, so we do have to have an election for that. Our open space committee rep, stormwater task force, municipal building design committee, economic development committee, and master plan steering committee. So, as always, I always like it if we just chat about what we're looking for first, rather than and then do our nominations. What are people interested? What are people interested in continuing with and stepping into?
I'm happy to stay with MRPC, MJTC, and clerk.
I'll be honest, I'm thrilled to hear that because
I know everybody hates them, so that's fine. I'll stick with them. I don't mind them.
I didn't hate it. When I wasn't good at that role. I wasn't. You're flat out better than me.
I don't know about that, but
Well, in that instance,
unless somebody else is clamoring to do them, then that's fine.
With everything going on and with the amount I've been in the office recently, I'm very much interested remaining as chair. But I don't know if others are looking for that or not. And similar for the other roles, we should, just keeping speaking for myself, we do have a vacancy on Economic Development Committee. I've served on that committee before, and I've been kind of doing some liaison chatting with them. I'm happy to move into that role. I don't feel that as a deep-seated need. And I personally am interested in remaining on Capital Planning Committee because we've been trying to move that more in the direction of capital planning, not just capital ranking. And I think the group has some good momentum. I would like to stay there, but I'm open if someone else really wants that. What are other people looking for or think others should be doing?
I am happy with the spots I've got, and I'm not entirely sure if I have the capacity for more at the moment. Because what are we just looking at there? It's just open space at that point?
Yeah.
Like,
We have vacancies, our other vacancy is open space.
yeah. You know, if we absolutely need somebody to go in the open space committee, I'm willing to do that, but at the moment, I'm not sure how much additional capacity I have.
I'm willing to do open space. I don't feel the need for that, but I think its meeting cadence works fine for me.
What is its meeting cadence?
Yeah, what's the schedule?
What is open space's meeting cadence formally?
Every 2 weeks, Wednesday night, generally 7:30.
Every 2 weeks, Wednesday night, generally at 7:30. And yeah, we could all hear you, but I'm also repeating out loud for the sake of our friends at home.
Once a month, sorry.
Oh, okay, thought it was once a month, okay, once a month. What are others interested in? Keeping, not keeping?
I personally, I'd like to be the chair again.
Okay.
With the new town manager, I think that there was a disconnect between the planning and the town management when I was chair, and I'd like to try again. In my opinion, there are a lot of things that this board is responsible for and is designated by state law to be doing that we just don't seem to do. Especially with the we're on our third land use director since we started master plan, finally, 14 years later than we should have. We don't have an in-house land use director. Logan is leaving us shortly. I've got a 25 to 30 year career in planning and engineering. And I think you've done a great job in holding us together and keeping us afloat in some very rough times. But I think that we need some technical expertise where we can get it. And I hope things do look up in the future, but I don't see that we're doing very well right now. I also want to mention that I believe the Master Plan Steering Committee is about ready to sunset. That was a year and a half to 2 year process. And I believe that over under are pretty much done with their contract. We probably do need to have a committee representative for it, but I don't expect it to last a lot longer. And I don't know about Municipal Building Design Committee. I don't mind staying on that. I don't have any clue what the next direction will be. But again, that's also within my wheelhouse of expertise from my personal life. So that's my 2 cents.
All right. I can tell us, there's been, I don't know what talks have happened where in terms of with the town manager and everything and over under. I would not anticipate that the Master Plan Steering Committee will be, Master Plan Steering Committee working with over under will be able to have us ready for the fall town meeting, for a special town meeting in the fall. I suspect that will continue through the spring town meeting, regular town meeting, but we'll see how all that goes. I know there's been some discussion on the back end too. Just setting expectations for that role a little bit. Looking at some of the others. Ms. Reed, are you looking to continue as clerk?
I'm fine with continuing as clerk unless someone else wants to step in that role.
So, open space, I'm not hearing a ton of direct volunteering. I'm hearing Tim say, I probably can. I'm saying, I can. Tim, are you looking for someone to nominate you, or would you rather not be in that role?
That's fine. I am willing to be in that role.
Okay.
So, take a nomination.
All right. Well, let's see what nominations we have. Can we batch nominate for, I know we can batch vote on a slate is legal. Can we batch nominate? I assume we can.
I don't understand what you mean by that.
Like saying, I nominate John Smith for positions X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, well, so you could say, for example, I move that we nominate Matt Allison and Matt Brenner for chair, Tim Wilsner for vice chair, like go down all the discussion we've had for people who are interested and do that as one motion, if that's what we'd like to do. We can do it individually as well. I was just trying to save us a couple minutes.
Potentially, but there's a thing here, like, if either of the two of you not being chair would rather keep a position on
People
the
can't,
vice chair.
it won't work. People can't nominate themselves. Therefore, we can't do it because all of us have at least one role. Never mind. All right. Okay. In that instance, woo-wee, I am looking for nominations for chair of the planning board.
Sorry, well, the question is, do you want to maintain, I assume by what you said before, you do want to maintain your position as chair, or you would like to?
I would like to. So let me phrase. I think we should have nominations.
Sure.
Yes, I would like to. We can give anyone who wants in those roles a chance to speak on it if they wish. And then, once we have the nominations and people have spoken, we'll do nominations, people will speak, and then we'll vote.
Sure.
That order. Yes, I am interested in remaining as chair. I should be more overt about that. Very much so. Nominations for chair of the planning board.
I nominate Matthew Brenner for the position of chair of the planning board.
Now, do I have to second that because Mr. Allison would also like to be nominated?
No,
or
he
should I-
he can second it or not.
Got it.
And that's fine, either way.
Okay, okay. Can I second and then nominate?
Yes, you
Okay.
can.
I will second,
Great.
and I'll nominate Mr. Allison for chair.
Second. Perfect. Do we have nominations for vice chair? I know Tim is interested.
I'll nominate Tim Wilsmer for vice chair.
Second. Great. I'm going to remember to try to second less and everything. I'm allowed to, but. For clerk,
I'll nominate Amanda Reed for clerk.
Oh, second.
great. Love it. Anyone else for vice chair and clerk, by the way? Hearing none. Our representative to Montechusett Regional Planning Commission,
I'll nominate Ms. Reed.
second. Great. Rep to Montechusett Joint Transportation Committee,
I'll nominate Amanda Reed for MJTC.
Second.
second. Great. I apologize, everyone. I was going to do all the nominations, then all the second, then all the votes. I don't mind that, but I realize if someone doesn't end up somewhere, that they might want to be nominated somewhere else, so I don't want to cut that short. Matt, would you rather we voted on chair first?
I think that that's the way it's supposed to go, but I'm not positive.
I'm fine with that. I don't have a preference, really. So we've gotten nominations through rep, MJTC rep. We can go back and vote on these, renominate as we wish. That's fine. So we have 2 people nominated for chair. Matt has spoken some. He certainly can again. To my extent, I would say I've served 2 consecutive years in this role. I would like to remain, both because I enjoy it. I have a real passion for this aspect of Lunenburg, and we have a lot of irons in the fire right now that I've actively been handling and would like to continue to do so. Not that handoff can't happen, but I feel it personally it would be smoother. That said, Matt, do you want to speak anymore? You did once, but I don't want to.
I've been, this is my 13th year on the planning board. I've had 4 years as chair. I've got professional experience for 25 to 30 years in the field. I think that for a long time, this board, for whatever reason, membership, the personnel, the town management, I don't know, but we seem to have lost our, we don't seem to appreciate the planning aspect of this board and the designation that the state gives it, the responsibilities that it has. It seems to have been become just a permit group, and every once in a while we'll talk about a bylaw when it's forced at us, and I think that we need to be better. And again, I think you've done a great job in some rough times, but I don't see that we're done with the rough times. And I think that we need to get back to doing things. We need to update our regs, our stuff for the planning board itself, and we need to be more accurate, I guess.
All right. Great. I'm going to go through candidates in alphabetical order. All in favor of Matt Allison, please say aye.
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 Okay. All in favor of Matt Brenner, please say aye.
Aye.
Well then,
I had a feeling that was going to happen.
I don't know what the next step is in this case.
Rock, paper, scissors, is that appropriate?
I mean, we could do that. I'm not big onto leaving important decisions up to chance myself. I don't know the process for if there is a draw. I was hoping Jasmine is not in the waiting room. Is she tonight? Okay, couldn't join us. That's fine for tonight. If no one objects, I would like to send a quick text to the town manager and get input on the proper, what happens in the case of a draw on the vote.
My general understanding
I'll
of
take it.
tied votes is that a tie usually means that the motion fails.
But we
However-
kind of have to have a chair.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if the motion were failing in that case, the default would persist, is my understanding, but I don't know of any like concrete examples to point
I
to
don't know if that holds for
for reorg specifically.
reorg.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm hoping we get a notification. Does anyone mind if we go through the other roles at this time?
Let's go.
Seeing no objections. All right. We have Mr. Wilsmer nominated for vice chair. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor of Tim as vice chair?
Aye.
Aye. Great. We have Ms. Reed for clerk. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor of Ms. Reed for clerk?
Aye.
Aye. Great. We have Ms. Reed as nominated as our representative for Montechusett Regional Planning Commission. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor of Ms. Reed as MRPC rep?
Aye.
Great. Ms. Reed for MJTC rep, Montechusett Joint Transportation Committee. Any other nominations? Seeing none, all in favor of Ms. Reed for MJTC rep?
Aye.
Aye. Great. We have myself, Mr. Brenner, as our representative to Capital Planning Committee. No, we don't. We did not get that far with the nominations. I apologize. Looking for nominations for Capital Planning Committee.
Nominate Mr. Brenner to the Capital Planning Committee representative position.
I will second.
Moved and seconded. Is any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Open Space Committee rep. Tim has expressed interest. Do we have any nominations? I am willing. Do we have any nominations for Open Space Committee rep?
I'll nominate Mr. Wilsmer for open space.
I will second. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor of Mr. Wilsmer for Open Space Committee rep?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Stormwater Task Force. Mr. Wilsmer has expressed a willingness to remain in that role. Looking for nominations for Stormwater Task Force rep.
I will nominate Mr. Wilsmer for Stormwater Task Force.
I will second. Okay. All in favor of Mr. Wilsmer for Stormwater Task Force rep?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Mr. Allison has expressed a desire to remain on Municipal Building Design Committee. Looking for nominations for the rep to the Municipal Building Design Committee.
I'll nominate Mr. Allison for Municipal Building Design Committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor of Mr. Allison as our rep to the Municipal Building Design Committee? Aye.
Aye.
Great. I've expressed interest in Economic Development Committee rep. Looking for nominations for Economic Development Committee.
I nominate Mr. Brenner to the Economic Development Committee.
I will second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Should have asked if there were any others, but does anyone feel slighted by that? No. Okay. Master Plan Steering Committee rep. Mr. Wilsmer has expressed an interest in continuing in that role. Do we have any nominations for Master Plan Steering Committee representative?
I'll nominate Mr. Wilsmer for Master Plan Steering Committee.
I will second. Any other nominations? Hearing none. Been moved and seconded. All in favor of Mr. Wilsmer for Master Plan Steering Committee representative?
Aye.
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 Aye. Great. Haven't got a response on that text, which was tie for planning board chair vote. How do we handle that with a split board? Not super surprising, but let's turn to each other and chat. I think what I'd like us to do is to share, all of us share some thoughts on why we'd like to see a direction, see if that influences anything, and then go for another vote, if that works for everybody. I'm willing to speak first, but I do a lot of speaking at these meetings. So if anyone else wants to speak first, go ahead. All right. I will be more overt and probably more clear about my feelings. I have spent the past 2 months working in the planning office almost every workday, trying to help keep this board and the planning office overall moving forward. When I say we have a lot of irons in the fire, we have the MBTA communities, we have master plan, we have all the other things we've talked about. We have things like needing to get our SHI numbers up, specifically for the 40B, but in general, because otherwise we are at the whim of developers. I agree with Mr. Allison very much that we need to be actively planning. That was something I was trying to work with Adam Burney on when he and I did overlap. We haven't had a consistent planner since then. We did have one hired by the town for a spell and some interims. I think we need a strong direction. And to be more clear, I think we need to be very actively pursuing things like the creation of further 40R districts or looking to pursue friendly 40Bs. There's some differences, what could be more appropriate. I think in the future, we may also, in certain sections of town, depending how MBTA communities goes, we may want to look at either PUDs, planned urban development, or other options for mixed use, because the town is growing and changing rapidly. I'm happy to speak to some of my ideas personally on there, but I've been living in this world a lot, working over the past couple of years with our interim planners. and I agree on the strong need. I am personally of the opinion that I've been more boots on the ground recently, and am in that way better equipped to address it. Not to at all denigrate Mr. Allison's lengthy career in the field, which is also an asset. I would like it, I'm not going to make us speak, I'd like to hear all of our thoughts in more depth in the hopes that that shifts some opinions. It may or may not.
I'm not sure how much I really have to say. I've been happy with, not happy, but, understanding the direction where we've been operating recently. And the degree to which you, Mr. Brenner, have been involved in trying to keep everything that we're doing here running smoothly. Yeah, that's most of my feelings on it.
I'm struggling with this vote a bit because I have seen the amount of work that you've put in. You said you've been chair for 2-ish years?
Yeah,
now?
this is 2 full years.
It's a long time. And I see you in the office, I see you doing things, I see you on emails, you know things about MRPC and MJTC that I don't, so I've relied on you in some points for that. So the effort that you've put in is really incredible, especially when we haven't had really the best help in the office. We've had, well, I shouldn't say not the best, interim and, some people who didn't stay that long or as long as they should have. So you've definitely put in the work for sure. And Mr. Allison also brings up a great point that he does have a lot of experience, not just in the profession, but also on the board itself. So it's difficult to kind of be stuck in the middle of somebody who's like boots on the ground, putting in so much time, and somebody who's super knowledgeable and understands things beyond my own comprehension. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm really on the fence. I have a question. If we are unable, well, we're going to find out if we're unable to make a decision tonight. When would be the next vote? When we get a new member?
What I would do, so if my assumption and understanding is if we do not successfully hold a vote for a majority during the reorg for that role, it will not change.
So when would the
It would be
new-
my intent. So then, remaining as chair, I am the one who sets the agenda. It would be my intent to have, basically, to put it on the agenda indefinitely until someone is a clear cut. Unless there was a reason we looked at it and said, we shouldn't do it this meeting because we know people are going to be out, and that feels like a lousy way to make a decision to me. But otherwise, I would just put it on the agenda indefinitely each meeting until we come to a conclusion. Now, that would probably be much shorter than this because it would be a vote, go on. But that would be my intent for that. If there were other thoughts on how to handle it, I'm open.
So if you were to be voted into that position at this meeting,
Yes.
the next time we would reorg is when we get a new member? Or,
We can reorg so, good question. I understand now.
Okay.
At any point, we can put a reorganization on the agenda. Again, if I'm chair, that's fine. We might do it when we get, we might do it by default when we get a new member. If we want to put them on some committees, I could see value in giving them at least a few meetings to get their feet under them. Not necessary. Often new members come in at their first meeting and get shoved in. We all know what that's like. But either way, personally, if board members are calling for a reorg, I would, if I were voted in, I would certainly entertain that notion. I would be thoughtful about, there's a point at which repeatedly calling for things is no longer helpful. So I think there's something there, but I'm more covering my bases with that statement, not trying to imply I wouldn't follow through on a request for reorg.
Okay.
All right. Hearing no other discussion, I will call for a vote again for chair. We have Mr. Allison and myself nominated for chair. And all in favor of Mr. Allison?
Aye.
All in favor of Mr. Brenner? Aye. Did you say aye? I apologize, I didn't hear you. Did you?
Two.
Yeah, okay, great. No, I thought we said at the same time, but you're also on my bad ear. All right. At this point, I'm going to assume the board cannot come to a decision tonight, and I'm going to move us forward. And Tim, can we please? Oh my God, Logan, wow. Logan, could you please make sure that that is after chair report, our first item of substance on the agenda for our 23rd meeting? All right, thank you. I encourage, now, what I was going to encourage might be a violation of open meeting law, so I'm not going to encourage it. It's the edge case, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'm not going to recommend things that could be bad. All right. We will move forward with this reorganization and revisit in a couple weeks and see where we end up. All right. Next on our agenda, we have an appointment to have a shared meeting with the Open Space Committee. Our friends from the Open Space Committee, if you could join us up at this table. Our friends from PAC have set up the portable microphones for us. And I know when the select board does a joint meeting, they all get down to the table. I asked our friends from PAC, and they just said that camera and microphone wise, it's a little easier if we stay up here. I don't want this to feel like on high, and for the love of God, if I put on my chair pants too much and dominate, yell at me. I know Anna can yell at me, it's fine.
Yeah, we're good. We're ready to proceed.
Great. I actually don't know how joint meetings work. I assume do you need to open your meeting?
We do.
Okay.
Okay, so this is, what's today's date?
June 9th.
I think you
June
might need
9th.
to tap your microphone.
Oh,
June 9th meeting of the Lunenburg Open Space Committee. I'm Mike Toohill, Chair. Anna?
I'm the vice chair.
I'm Eric Hines, member at large.
And Mr. Wilsmer, you're our quorum. You're our new member.
Yes.
So we have a new member coming from Parks as well. We've had a bunch of people changing around. So we have a new planning board rep. We have a new member from Parks. We're still looking for one at large,
Right.
one community member. Okay.
okay. Great. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is wonderful. Logan was kind enough to put together our agenda, so this should reflect the same thing, which is for us to overall discuss the Chapter 61A exit process, as well as to look at 222 West Townsend Road in particular, because that came up since we talked about scheduling this. Would you like to lead this discussion?
Sure, I'll get her
Please.
start. So we've had a number of Chapter 61, there you go. Yeah, feedback. We had a number of Chapter 61 proposals come up over the past year, and the process in the town has been less than ideal. The communication has been less than ideal. Matthew knows that. He was on our Open Space Committee, has a rep from the planning board for quite a while. So I thought it would be a good idea for, we're an ad hoc committee of your board, by the way, so,
Yes.
okay. So I thought it would be a good idea for open space to come before the planning board, because the planning board is one of the boards that is noticed under Chapter 61, right of first refusals. Technically, we're not, but because we're an ad hoc committee, I've asked, and Logan's been sending it to me, and others have sent to me. I get it from Conservation as well. We get also the request for right of first refusal from Chapter 61, which we have one tonight, so it's good timing. So what I wanted to do, what we proposed before, is having a process where once Conservation, once Planning is notified, that Open Space also be notified, and that we try to schedule a joint meeting, perhaps, if the timing requires that. And we've had that before, where we got notice the day after we had a meeting. We didn't have another meeting for a month, and I apologized before. I said every 2 weeks, it's once a month. And that was too late to get back to the select board. So we can hold a joint meeting with the planning board, or with Conservation, but with the planning board at any point if that is required, if we have a proposal in front of us that merits discussion. So I don't know whether you want to talk about the one before us tonight next?
So I'd like it if we could narrow in a little more on that 61A exit process and see
Okay.
if there's anything else. If there's anything else you need from us or from the planning office, I want to make sure we have that really set in stone tonight so we can meet those needs effectively for this. I also want to verify, I know there's been talk in the past, Logan, about like,
Having a flag for.
yeah, a
open space
flag,
and open
thank,
gov.
that's the term I was looking for, a flag in OpenGov. By the way, I'm going to actually pause us for a second. We're saying a bunch of words most people don't know. When we say coming out of chapter 61A, that is a way of of effectively, I'm going to super paraphrase, of getting a tax break for land that's put aside for agricultural or recreational uses, both,
Or
right?
forestry?
Or forestry, okay, thank you. Now, when land exits that, so if I own land and it's under chapter, I'm not paying as much in taxes because it's dedicated more to that common good. What happens then is if I then go to sell my land, I might be selling to someone who wants to take it out of chapter, who wants to develop it. When that happens, the town has right of first refusal to buy that land. But we have a very limited window to do it. 90 days, is that right? Yeah, 90 days. But there's a lot that has to happen in that 90 days. You might think, oh, well, if our friends in open space, we meet once a month, that's plenty of time. But information needs to be gathered. These committees need to make a recommendation to the select board. The select board needs to take a vote. And then there's still financial and other steps that need to happen, all within that 90 days. So it is something that sounds like a while, but needs to happen very quickly. When we talk about the flags and everything, we're talking about OpenGov, the system we're using to increasingly handle our application and permitting process. It's an online computer-based system as opposed to the old paper system. You've heard us probably talk about that on planning board before, but that's what we're talking about when we talk about OpenGov or flagging items.
So I've been working with Sophie Darrow, who's the conservation administrator, and with, well, Mary is no longer the chair, but when Mary was the chair, the three of us are working together because what's wound up happening in the past is the Conservation Commission will get an application under the Wetland Protection Act under the town bylaw for a piece of property that is in chapter. And the intent is to sell it and develop it, but it hasn't come out of chapter yet. And so they're getting permit applications for the new development prior to any action being taken on a property coming out of chapter. And so I've been working with Sophie to put a flag in, put checklists together, and that's one of the things that applicants' responsibility. The applicant coming in requesting a permit has to identify whether or not their property is currently in chapter or not.
Love it.
And so that's one way to kind of forestall some of the issues that we've had with Conservation Commission taking votes and approving a project prior to it ever coming out of chapter. Okay.
Okay. I am glad that flag has, now, is that flag, has it been put in?
No, so on the technical, well, not that I know of. So on the technical side, I can't speak to what Sophie's done, although I'd love to chat with you more about it. The underlying data underneath the hood of OpenGov is a mixture of, one, the assessor's master address table, and two, custom-created locations to kind of bridge the gap between what might be missing from the master address table. For example, if something is about to be newly addressed, it wouldn't exist in OpenGov as a location yet, so someone, say myself or Brian, would create it ad hoc, and after the fact, when the master address table gets updated, the two would be reconciled. As the system currently exists, certain flags have been applied. For example, there are flags for if your property is in the Architectural Preservation District. It shows that both to the back-end staff users and I believe the applicants. As soon as you select that parcel, it shows a big screaming, you know, this is in the Architectural Preservation District. And that would be relatively easy to implement for chapter land if Ritter had a comprehensive list to be working from. Now, for one reason or another, that has just been difficult to come by. I know there's a table rendered in page whatever of the open space and recreation plan itself, but that's not the same as immediate mutable data like something like an Excel spreadsheet. I've asked around a bit about whether a current list exists, and I haven't gotten replies on it yet, but I believe I could follow that up with the assessor's office. It's something that's really easy enough to pin down. The difficult part is just getting everybody in the room at the same time to do it.
Yeah, and one of the things that I suggested to Sophie is she's putting together a guide to applicants that has a checklist of things that they should have in the application. And that's one of the things that we want to add to that guide to applicants checklist is very simply, yes, no, is this property currently in Chapter 61? And so that we rely upon the applicants to tell us that, but it's better than being completely blind.
So it sounds like, to make sure I understand everything we've talked about here, the flag system is an ongoing project that's working. By the way, if y'all like listening to Logan talk about data and having this level of command over the back end of systems and this technical knowledge, this is why the select board is stealing from us and why I'm a little miffed with them. So if you see Caesar, tell him, hey, oh, actually, no, it's good for Logan, it's good for the town. So that flag process is working on. I'm also hearing you say that you're very happy to come to our meetings with enough notice when we hear this happens and not have to wait for your monthly meeting, and that could be an issue. Do I understand that right?
That's correct.
While we're on this topic, is there anything else the planning board can be doing to support you right now?
Get another Logan for us. He's been a great help.
Thank you. On furthering that part of the technical end from being a thing that is just ongoing and stays ongoing forever, finishing it out, if you have the time, I think a meeting with probably myself, Brian Jingers, the building commissioner, and maybe some relevant folks from assessors would go a long way in
Sure.
finishing that out.
One thing I'll add to the assessor's information, they're actually trying to verify every property that's on chapter, because that's a process that needs to be renewed. And I think for a while there was an automatic renewing, but it really should be a process that property owners resubmit. So it's a timely conversation because they are in the process of creating their own checks and balances related to that.
That's good to know.
Great.
I have a question. The open space and recreation plan is on this agenda item. So does that list, I know it lists the properties that are in, that are permanently protected. Does it also list the the properties at that time that were in chapter?
I honestly don't know. I'd have to go look.
Okay, well, I'm wondering if it may. That was a
Yeah.
very thorough document.
Yeah. I don't know. That was,
And they change, so
yeah.
they come and they go.
All right, great. Yeah, let's then, if you're ready, I'm happy for us to talk about the 222 West Townsend Road.
Okay. So the Open Space Committee looks at 6 different criteria when we evaluate a property to make a recommendation to you and to the board, and to the select board, whether or not the town should consider exercising a right of first refusal. And those are, the property is generally got to be over 50 acres in size. This parcel is not.
So that's about a 13-acre parcel, correct?
It's divided by front parcel and back parcel, and I think it's the back parcel that's in chapter.
Oh, okay.
There's a house, there's a residence up front.
I saw the residence
Yeah.
up front in GIS. It wasn't.
There, if you look at the documentation that came through from the property owner's attorneys to the town, notifying the town that they intend to take it out of chapter, they had an assessor's card on there as well. And I believe there are 3 actual pieces to that property, and they have different acreages on the different one. And so the forested land in the back, I think, is what's in chapter, and it might be under a forestry chapter. I'm not sure which part of the chapter it's under. That was about 9 acres, 9-point-something acres, if I remember correctly. So well below our 50-acre criteria. By the way, just as an aside, as part of the Open Space and Recreation Plan update, we're revisiting the criteria and we started discussions about changing some of the criteria. And one of the changes that I'm recommending is 50 acres is a pretty big piece of land, so we might want to bring that down and then have other caveats under the other 5 criteria. So the second criteria is that the parcel should have important habitat. And I view that as meaning that it's either got to be mapped as natural heritage or have vernal pools. It can be in the biomapping, but it has to be a habitat of high quality in the biomapping. And I checked Mass GIS before I came over this evening, and this parcel doesn't meet those criteria. Okay, so it doesn't meet those. The third is that the parcel should have public access and/or recreational use. Well, it has public access because it's on a road. So it can meet that criteria. And recreational, it's a forested area, so it could be for hiking or bird watching or something in the back, so it might meet that criteria. The fourth is that it has scenic vistas and contributes to the rural character. The frontage is a home, and all around it are homes. And so I'm not sure that it really meets, we can discuss that as a committee, I'm not sure it really meets that the intent of that criteria. The fifth is that the parcel should be contiguous to other open space or recreation lands, and it is not. Okay, and the sixth is that it be prime or unique farmland. I mean, there's a lot of lands in Lunenburg that are mapped as farmland of local importance, but we were looking at prime or unique farmland, which is the higher level of farmland. And this parcel is not mapped as that. So in general, the Open Space Committee has said you've got to meet 3 at a minimum, 4 preferably as a minimum, criteria in order for us to make a recommendation to the select board that they consider exercising right of first refusal. And this parcel meets one, as far as I can tell.
All right, great. Do y'all want to deliberate together and make a recommendation to us?
Sure.
So,
Tim, you're on both sides of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Reminder.
look you. One thing that I keep in my mind that is not one of these criteria, but I know this is something that we want to discuss in the future, that I want to bring it up is, is this land strategic to the town in some way or the other? When we talk about, a piece of land that maybe, and I'll give that piece of land that was just on Townsend Harbor Road, it was 9 acres. It didn't meet a lot of those criteria, but it was a piece of farmland, and it was something that we lost. And I would say, like, strategically speaking, for the town, for the rural character, like, it carries more weight for me, that piece of land, than, other pieces of land. So I don't think that strategic, whatever it is in my head, this piece of land falls under, but I think I personally would like us to also think more strategically about some land acquisition, because the other side of the strategic that I'm talking about is the town might be able to buy it while exercising our first right of refusal and maybe parse it out differently and then sell the part that's not interesting. And in particular, I'm thinking about the property down Leinster Road, where it was a huge acreage and, right next to a brook that's important to our ecology. And we didn't buy, and now they're trying to build everything. So that is a piece of land that's very strategic for the town to maintain, that we could have purchased, we could have chopped that back part off, protect the brook, protect the land, and maybe the town would sell off the remainder. So, we need to have that discussion too about what's strategic pieces of land. And I think, that's something that we discussion during.
No, exactly, and the last property that came up that we discussed was only about 9 acres.
Right.
But it was agricultural, and it was agricultural prime land.
Right.
And we had a discussion about whether or not it might be suitable for a community garden.
Right.
Or, given where it is, it could have been suitable for a soccer field.
Easy soccer fields because they're level.
Exactly. So that's one of the reasons why I'm advocating that we,
Right.
As we go through the update, the master plan update, which originally, by the way, the master plan update was originally due to the state.
The recreation plan, you mean?
I'm sorry, open space and recreation plan was due to the state in 2027. And now they've added 3 more years, or we have the option of adding 3 more years. And so Open Space Committee has discussed that, and we're going to go ahead, and there's a few things I have to do to send into the state to get them to give us the additional 3 years before we have to go through the massive update. But that doesn't stop us from evaluating criteria like these.
Right. Amending the current plan.
Exactly.
Yeah. There is a lot of value on that. Also, some of those criteria are very different than what the state open space and recreation plan goals are.
Right.
And when we align those goals, we have a project in town like Marshall Park, it gives us an opportunity for different funding. But as regarding to this piece of land, I don't see any strategic value for it. But I like to start a conversation of sometimes we should buy a piece of land, because the reality is, one thing that I think is very important to say, it's not just a tax break that the property owners receive. This is an investment that town is making in order to make this decision. So a lot of times it's a big tax break. So the town is shedding out thousands of dollars a year in order to have the right to make that assessment. So we should be making every decision very careful and not just say, oh, it's 9 acres, it's another field, there's no value on that. It's like, we have invested thousands of dollars on this in order to have an honest discussion about it, and we should have it. And maybe, we buy the land, chop it up the part that's our, maybe more, that we want, or that we have our garden, we protect something, and we sell another, one piece of the land, and they can, you know, and I'm sure there'll be buyers. And, you know, and I think the property on Sunny Hill Road was one that I think we should have exercised that role. But in this one case, I don't think that is any value.
Okay.
Sorry for rambling.
That's okay. You have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, regarding this specific property, I agree. I don't think it meets our, enough of the criteria.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward one to me.
Okay. Mr. Wilsman, you're our newest member.
Yes.
And so, on behalf of Open Space, do you want to weigh in on this?
I guess, given my limited experience in this at the moment, it's just been a case of getting an understanding of what generally the criteria are supposed to be. I do really like the idea of being pretty strategic in how we use these, because, as you mentioned, these are, lands that the town has already invested in. But as what to do about this particular piece, I am uncertain.
Thank you.
Great.
So that's the recommendation from Open Space. Sounds like it's a no for us.
Okay. I don't know how that works. Do you need to hold a formal vote for that, or no? I don't know your committee's.
We have been.
Oh, that was a formal vote?
No, we have been.
Oh, you have been
holding
okay,
formal
good.
votes, so we can do that if you want.
Great.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we don't, it is the Open Space Committee to not recommend to pursue the purchase of this piece of land.
Okay. We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. We can do we used to do a roll call because we're on Zoom all the time, but we can just do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Great.
Okay, carries.
Thank you. While we're on this topic, I'll turn to the planning board. I've heard from the Open Space Committee that they don't see the strategic value in this. So, do we have further discussion? I don't know how much people have looked at the property before this meeting. It's a back lot behind some residential and behind some commercial off of Chase Road. Do we have further discussion on that topic before I think we can make a motion tonight and vote for our recommendation to the select board and get this closed out?
I'm happy to echo their recommendation. I also do want to echo the Townsend Harbor Road lot. I think that was a super miss for Lunenburg, for sure. I remember there was talk about a community garden, and when we're talking about MBTA communities and creating spaces where people are maybe not going to have as much land access in their own homes, a community garden would have been so good. I come from Chicago, so community gardens are huge for people who don't have a lot of land space. And so I think there needs to be a balance. And when we kind of just say, oh, we don't need this property, whatever, we don't know what our recommendation is, those opportunities get missed. And I think there was for sure a miss for Lunenburg. But for this, I'm in agreement.
Great.
Yeah, so I'll echo that sentiment. I mean, I completely agree with the Open Spaces recommendation, and I just want to add to this that it's not like we're losing this piece of land. This piece of land is just going to be developed, and it's going to come back. I think it's about 90% of the taxable value back onto the tax rolls. So if it's not a great use and the town doesn't have the interest in it, it kind of is a win because we are gaining a large amount of additional tax revenue from the property.
Yeah. And just for the sake of discussion, I think we're on the line, but it's also zoned outlying district. So if they're looking at the 9-acre lot, that's maximum 4 parcels. It could be cut up into, because that's a 2-acre minimum lot size. All right. I would look for a motion for what we would recommend to the select board on this.
Do we motion to accept the Open Space and Recreation Committee's recommendation? Or,
I think the motion I think the vote just comes from us.
Okay.
We have heard it. We don't need to formally accept it. We make we hear from them, and then it's a little odd, but then we make the recommendation to the select board.
The select board, actually, Mr. Chair, the select board has asked Open Space to discuss this with them directly as well.
Wonderful.
Yes, we'll do.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So, and we've talked about this before, that sometimes there's a difference in opinion, or could be, because Open Space looks at it from that specific lens. In planning, we have the open space lens. We also have all the other aspects of planning. So this could be a case where open space might say there's not a need, and we might go, wait a minute, we know the town's looking for a big lot to put a school on and blah, 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 or something. But personally, I'm not aware of anything like that this lot, any needs that way that this lot could meet. So it would just be a motion for our recommendation to the select board, whether or not to exercise our first right of refusal.
all right, motion to recommend to select board, this would be to not use our first right of refusal on the property,
On
222 West Townsend Road.
I will second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Do you need anything else from us?
No, I went through the vacancy issue, we've taken care of that, and we're just going to table, it wasn't on the agenda, but we're just going to table discussion of our minutes to our own meeting.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Then, thank you so much. You can close your meeting as you need, and we'll get back to business.
All right. Motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Seconded.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, open space is adjourned for this month. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that gets us through our appointments, and now we're on to public hearings. We have 3 public hearings in front of us tonight. We'll take them in order as listed on the agenda. That will be 1083 Northfield Road, then 443 West Townsend, then 100 Townsend Harbor. And 1083 Northfield Road is continued from 512, but did we open it on 512? I don't think we did.
This was the funky one where, to avoid a potential Mullins snag,
We didn't,
defer formal openings.
right. So, let's open this public hearing.
Let me just pull this up.
Okay.
1083 Northfield. Come on. Are there 2 postings for this, or just the one?
I think there's just the one. It should be the same on both. I do the notices combined.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you. So much faster than the computer. The Lunenburg Planning Board will hold a public hearing on, should I still say May 12th, or should I change it?
You can say today.
Okay. On June 9th, 2025, at 6:05 PM, Town Hall, 17 Main Street, Lunenburg, Mass., to hear and review applications for special permit and stormwater management permit, respectively pursuant to 250-6.4C7 and 204-1D of the Code of the Town of Lunenburg by Tanner Cole for construction of a common driveway to service 4 single-family dwellings. Subject property information: the location is 1083 Northfield Road, Assessors Map 55, parcel number 2. Owner is Tanner Cole, 856 Massachusetts Avenue, Lunenburg, Mass. 01462. You can view the materials online at lunenburgma.portal.opengov.com/search. with record ID PBSW-25-1 and PBSP-25-5 via an email request to the planning office, planning@lunenburgma.gov, or in person at the planning office at 960 Mass Avenue in Lunenburg. Thank you.
Love it, and this is for stormwater management permit and site plan approval, correct?
Common driveway special permit approval.
That's, yes, thank you, that is
That's all right.
what SP
Yeah, that's okay. It's a whole new classification in town, so I get it, yeah.
I always see SP in the notes and go, oh, site
Site
plan,
plan, yeah.
not
Yeah.
special permit.
no, that's
There we
okay.
go.
Well, thanks. Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay,
take it
thank
away.
you. Greg Roy this evening with Dilson Roy Civil Design Group, representing the applicant Tanner Cole, who's here with us this evening as well. I need to give a little bit of history here, and I want to say that I know your meeting's been a little lengthy so far, and I think this is going to be a little brief because we have not gone through peer review on this yet, and I want to tell you all why we asked for a month continuation on this. We filed, as you noted, a special permit application for a 4-lot common driveway with a parallel stormwater permit application because the site in its aggregate is greater than 40,000 square feet of land disturbance for sure. So it requires compliance with the town's stormwater management policy. So those two are your applications, as we noted. This property has 5 lots. So there are 5 lots. Some of you may remember that was created by A&R a number of years ago. So it's a 30-acre, roughly, piece of land that has frontage, 5 lots with frontage on Northfield Road. And the original intention was to come before your board with the application that was filed, with a 4-lot common driveway configuration, with the 5th lot being accessed by a single-family driveway. After we made that filing, the applicant actually, Tanner actually spoke with the building commissioner because it seemed like in this particular instance, it seemed like it would make sense to try to see if there's a way that we could consolidate the 5th driveway for access off of the common driveway. Indeed, your bylaw, not regulations, the bylaw is, it codifies 4 as the maximum number. So the only process for doing 5 would be not a special permit for dimensional variation from zoning, an actual variance from Zoning Board of Appeals. The applicant decided to file that application, and the Zoning Board of Appeals granted that application. So we did that a few weeks back. So knowing that that application was pending, we asked you for a continuation from the April meeting to tonight. We indeed still have not formally amended your construction plans that we filed originally to show the 5th lot. So I wanted to come before you this evening so that we weren't waiting another couple weeks or 2 weeks, and just at least give you this presentation really briefly and high level. I know that we also have not engaged peer review. I guess I'd like to ask you to do that. We will be getting revised plans to you shortly that shows that 5th lot. This plan is the one that we filed. So the actual common driveway portion of this project really does not change much. We reconfigured the turnaround at the end. It's really not much longer. It just is configured so that we could get that 5th lot in. This is indeed the plan that was submitted to the Zoning Board of Appeals that they ultimately approved with conditions. They asked us to add some additional width on portions of the driveway, which we'll be working on. So I wanted to present this to you folks. No expectation that there'll be a lot of meaningful discussion, and I'm certainly happy to take comments and questions. But I do expect that we'll need to continue this, go through, a vetted process. Once you've seen revised plans that have been peer-reviewed, of course, we know we have to go through that. There's some tweaks we got to do with the stormwater to make sure that we are accommodating the fifth lot and the like. So we also have a pending Conservation Commission process that's been opened and continued as well, so that's kind of running in parallel. So this is all kind of interplaying together, which is influencing our meeting schedules as we move through. So I apologize. I wanted to stay here and apologize that we have kicked the can down the road a little bit, but also tell you why that was the case. So I think that's all I'll say this evening, unless you have specific questions or comments.
So the only change the ZBA granted was, and ZBA could give this because it's, again, paraphrasing the law, because it's a number, and ZBA in this case can change numbers.
Well, yeah, they can vary the requirements of the zoning, but it has to be, it's a stricter criteria.
Yes.
Variances are stricter than special permits, so it had to be owing to circumstances relating to the soils, topography, and we made the case that due to the presence of the wetlands there, it makes a lot of sense to consolidate these things from a topography and soil condition standpoint, and that's ultimately what they agreed to.
But to your knowledge, this otherwise meets the other requirements as
Correct.
written within our...
Length, width, turnouts, grade, all the other criteria that you have set forth. We're not asking for any of those. It was just the number of lots.
And if memory serves, this does go before public safety, specifically fire, correct?
That I do not know.
I think it,
I don't believe so. When we were putting the bylaw together, they did have input, and they added the desire for the sign at the beginning of the driveway, giving a map of the locations of the units. But I believe that, I think that was the end of their input, and I think that satisfied them. I'm not sure.
I know they've chimed in before on some of our, because we've only had like one or, I think we've
Yeah,
had
it
two
hasn't been
of
many.
this special permit so
Yeah, there
far
haven't been
since
many,
we-
yeah.
And if I remember correctly, Fire did chime in on one of them because they had some thoughts on the turnarounds as designed. Regardless,
Oh, yeah, they did on one that we filed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, down on
see,
Massac, yeah.
I would like, personally, I'd like Fire to take a look just because I don't think it would matter, but I would like Fire to take a look at it just to make sure they're comfy, if that isn't part of the process, because we're changing the flow overall I don't think it will matter one bit, but
I was getting a nod from the applicant that we've reviewed this with the fire department already, correct? Yeah, so I don't think they have any issues, but if you need to hear that, we can ask them to send you documentation on that.
Could also
Or you
reach
could-
out on OpenGov
Yeah.
for that they're linked as they're part of the approval workflow, and even if they've already checked it off for this one with a revision as major as this, I don't know if it would be a refiling or just a revision under this current filing, but I would notify them of that either way since it's so.
okay, yeah, if we can notify them. I don't think they'll be, I am just covering our bases. I
Yep.
don't know why one unit would make that big of a difference, but,
Right.
great. This makes sense so far. Do we have any questions at this time?
Yeah, and I don't interpret that as there won't be any questions through the
Yeah.
process, but I did want to come before you and at least give you a high-level overview here.
And
Get the ball rolling, so to speak.
you have not yet put in the money for the peer review?
No, they
money's-
have. We haven't reached out to engage Graves. I emailed him this morning to do that, but then I heard back that this
Right.
revision was incoming. so-
Okay,
Yeah, I
remember
just
that.
said, since we haven't, I don't think it would have been a waste of time if we had done it, because it's really not that much different.
Yeah,
But there would have been some changes, so now that we haven't done it, let's just wait for a few days.
Got it.
We'll get you another set of plans. Graves can review and not have to duplicate any effort at all, so,
love it.
if that makes sense.
All right. Any other questions from the board? And if not, we could look at continuing.
Did you say you wanted a month?
Oh, it is a,
Well, I mean, I don't want a month, but Graves is probably going to want a month. You have anything to, I mean, I think, okay. There's no chance this is going to get done in 2 weeks, so I think you better do it for a month. I mean,
all right, but before we do that, it is a public hearing. So do we have any public comment? Seeing none, I don't believe we have any friends watching at home, it looks like. So, well, watching at home on Zoom, whose hands we need to look for being raised.
there's probably multitudes watching on, you know.
Of
The
course,
other-
how could, planning board is exciting, or something. Okay, in that case, I would look for a motion possibly to continue this public hearing to our meeting on the 14th of July at 6:05 PM.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks very much.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, that is 1083 Northfield Road. And Logan, thank you for reminding me of why we specifically, decidedly didn't open it. Yeah. Okay, next up would be 443 West Townsend Road, Lot 3.
Oh, hold on. Okay, the Lunenburg Planning Board will hold a public hearing on June 9th, 2025 at 6:05 PM, Town Hall, 17 Main Street, Lunenburg, Mass., to hear and review an application for special permit for common driveway pursuant to 250-6.4 of the Code of the Town of Lunenburg by Maximilian Czernauskas. I think I got that right. For a common driveway to service 433 and 443 West Townsend Road. Subject property information, the location is 433 and 443 West Townsend Road, Assessors Map 15, parcel numbers 12, lots 1 and 3. Owner is Maximilian Czernauskas, 443 West Townsend Road, Lunenburg, Mass. 01462. You can view materials online at lunenburgma.portal.opengov.com/search with record ID PBSP-25-3 via an email request to the planning office, planning@lunenburgma.gov, or in person at the planning office at 960 Mass Avenue in Lunenburg.
You're a busy man, Tanner.
Apparently so. Good evening, everyone. Here representing the client I'm working with on developing 2 single-family homes. They purchased these lots, which sit side by side, approximately a year ago. And last summer, 433 West Townsend Road applied for a driveway permit, and we constructed a gravel driveway to access Lot 1. Lot 3 is owned by Lot 1's brother, so it's 2 brothers that are developing these parcels side by side. And initially, they weren't sure if they were going to construct a separate driveway for Lot 3, which has frontage further down West Townsend Road. And in the course of working with Unitil to bring electric in for Lot 1, they realized that the easiest way to bring the utilities to Lot 3 would be to create an easement, and that naturally led to, if we're going to do an easement here, why not do a common driveway at the same time? So that's what we're seeking this evening. The driveway for Lot 1 has been constructed to the building envelope. It's approximately 600 feet from the road to where the house will be located. And we would be looking for 3 waivers from the bylaw. in order to make this work. The first is the minimum width of the common driveway is listed as 18 feet in the bylaw. The driveway that was constructed is 14 feet wide. And because it's a reduced frontage lot that only has 50 feet of frontage, another section of the bylaw requires that no more than 30% of the frontage is encumbered by an easement. And so we can't meet that criteria of 18 feet wide. The 30% would limit you to a width of 16 feet roughly. And they're looking to try to maintain the rural character. It's a beautiful piece of land. It's lined by mountain laurel down both sides, and they want to maintain the privacy. We did incorporate a turnout approximately halfway down the driveway, so that if you had two vehicles passing one another, there was a point where they could get by one another. The second waiver we're looking for is the requirement for 3 inches of asphalt paving. They'd like to leave the driveway gravel with the exception of the apron that's required at the road. And then the third and final waiver is a common driveway is required to be set back 25 feet from the lot line of a home that is not serviced by the common driveway. And in this case, it's a reduced frontage lot that's only 50 feet wide, so you have a neighbor to either side, and you can't meet the criteria. Grading-wise, it's essentially flat. It pitches up approximately 1% from the road to the location of the house. And I did bring pictures if anybody wants to see what it looks like now.
Okay. Looking at our files, because we have that. Is there any other plan we should have?
I did attach the plan for Lot 3 as part of the filing. And I actually have a copy of that, I think.
Did that end up into the SharePoint? I see the A&R layout in there.
Yeah, so that would show that, but this is Lot 3, so this is the connection with the driveway here. So essentially, you come in and the driveway for Lot 3 cuts off right here.
Okay. Am I missing that in OpenGov, or is it?
Let me take a look.
Okay. Because I was going, I don't think we have the full plan for this driveway, but, all right. I have a few questions, but I'll look to the board as well. Questions from the board?
So I'm familiar with that part of the bylaw that says the encumbrance of 30% by easement, right?
Yeah.
So we require 18 feet, and it's built at 14, is that what it was?
Correct. The existing driveway is 14 feet, and if you take 30% of your 50-foot width, you're limited to roughly 16 feet, 16 and 2/3.
And your lot lines are already set.
Essentially, yeah.
I'm not in favor I'm not generally in favor of granting waivers to our bylaws, but this does seem to make more sense. And it's unfortunate with the reduced frontage, but I would be in favor of granting that waiver.
Yeah, and that gets to the crux of my question, is I'm trying to remember back to our discussions when we were crafting this. If we had, because the way we crafted it, if you can't send the common driveway straight up a single reduced frontage. I didn't remember that being an intentional choice we made, but I don't remember that not being an intentional choice. Like, I don't even remember saying like, oh, we're doing this so that you have to something. I think it just fell out from the numbers randomly, but
What we were expecting was they would straddle the lot line so that half the easement would fall in each 50-foot width.
that was what was traditional, but we knew that when we made this bylaw, that would not necessarily happen. Well, we anticipated that one of the reasons we did it, it wouldn't happen anymore.
We didn't anticipate somebody coming to us with an existing driveway and a reduced frontage neck and adding a second driveway to make it a common driveway. That's what we didn't anticipate.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
And I think he was on the board when we did this.
Yeah, and well, the other piece of the puzzle here is this was a total of 4 lots. So lot 1 is reduced frontage, lot 2, which is in completely separate ownership, is a standard frontage lot, and then lots 3 and 4 are side by side and they're reduced frontage lots, and they're configured in such a way that you could run a common driveway out there. I didn't anticipate at the time when the land was sold, because I sold these lots to these gentlemen, that one family would buy 3 of the 4 lots. And they've chosen to develop lots 1 and 3. Lot 4 they're keeping just as open space. And so logically, it makes a lot more sense in this situation. It minimizes their construction costs, disturbance, and so on, but theoretically, they could cut a common driveway in for lots 3 and 4, straddle the lot line, not require a special permit really, no waivers. But given the situation and just the chain of the events, this brother was much further along in the building process and wanted to get going. And then once they realized what the utility layout was going to be and the costs associated with that, they really wanted to explore doing the common driveway. So
I'm not necessarily opposed myself. I'm just trying to think through, I'm trying to remember all of what our logic was, as well as make sure we're not potentially creating any issues for the town or for us as a board in the future, or for the applicant for some reason. I would, again, this is a case that I would want public safety to look at it, because everything we put in about the turnout and everything else for public safety in part relied on the assumption of the 18-foot width. So I think I'd want their input, making sure they're comfortable with the reduced width. Frankly, if public safety is comfy with it, I don't have many concerns at all then, because again, I don't want to create an issue where trucks can't get where trucks need to get.
I'm just going to take a quick look, but I'm pretty sure the fire department's already reviewed this and approved it with this configuration, with the turnouts. I know they did when we did the initial
Yeah.
application,
And-
but that was for the single driveway at that point, but I can just confirm.
And I would want to make sure that it was, when they reviewed it, it was called out specifically.
It was on the application. I itemized the 3 waivers that we were
Okay.
seeking, so.
It was sent to the fire department May 6th and auto-approved May 21st, so it doesn't look like they explicitly took a look at it, although they had the opportunity.
I mean, okay.
We can re-loop them.
On the other hand, if fire department had the ability to chime in and hasn't, the quote auto approve, like that process concludes for a reason.
Correct.
I'm less worried about it then, frankly. They have an opportunity to say, hey, wait a minute. Other thoughts from the board?
I just wanted to check in. You mentioned 3 waivers, and sorry, just one of them's dropped off when we've got width, we've got material.
With the pavement and then the offset to the property lines. The
Right.
bylaw requires 25 feet from the common driveway to any lot not serviced by the common driveway. And because it's a reduced frontage lot, we're not able to meet that criteria.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So,
With the natural screening that's provided,
Yeah.
it's different than if you're doing a 6-unit commercial common driveway.
Right.
For setbacks and everything. But I'm also going to turn to the public, because this is a public hearing. Do we have any public comment? Hearing none. All right. Do we want more input from public safety or anyone else? Are we comfy? Are we not comfy?
Well, one more thing that makes me very comfortable with granting waivers on this specifically is that it's a straight shot. It's almost level, and it is family currently, so that can always change. Durable dustless is what we require for services. It's probably not going to be as easy to plow, but it's the applicant's choice. And again, I mean, the reduced width of the roadway, of the pavement, the driveway, is only for the shared portion, so it only goes up to where the second driveway comes in. And technically, there's no reason that you couldn't, solidify and spread the gravel a little bit further if needed to be in that area in the future. But granting the relief for the width just gives them that flexibility.
Yep. All right.
But again, it's important in my mind that it is a relatively straight shot. So as soon as you pull off the road, or as soon as you come into the common driveway, you can see the other end.
It's a straight enough shot that it has the image cut line in there to fit it all, because it's just going. No, full agreement. Okay. If we have no other questions, and we don't see the need for anything else, we can close the public hearing and go from there. All right. I would look for a motion to close the public hearing for the special permit for the common driveway of 443 West Townsend Road, Lot 3.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Yeah, if there's no further discussion, we could have a motion, for example, to approve the special permit for the common driveway with the 3 waivers as requested for 443 West Townsend Road, Lot 3.
So moved.
Honestly, I'm not sure why, but we've always done the waivers separate from the motion. I'm not sure that there's a requirement for such, but that's the way we've always done it, so
It's at the very least helpful in terms of drafting the decision. Well-formed decisions that I've seen usually have the waivers listed explicitly. Couldn't hurt.
Okay, great, no problem. So we have a waiver for, you have them listed there, so.
Yep, waivers for section 250, 6.4C, 7C1A, minimum pavement width of 18 feet, 250, 6.4C, 7C6, driveway paved with 3 inches of bituminous concrete, and 250, 6.4C, 7C13, setback of 25 feet from a lot not being served by the common driveway.
All right. We could,
I move that we accept, that we grant the waivers for the 3 previously mentioned requests.
Second.
moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Great. So the waivers have been granted. All in favor of, I would look for a motion to approve the special permit for the common driveway for 443 West Townsend Road, Lot 3, with the waivers as voted on.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Bang-a-rang, we're all set. Thank you. Thank you, Tanner. Have a good night. Okay, next on the docket would be 100 Townsend Harbor Road, stormwater management permit.
We did open this one, or we did not open this one?
We did open this room.
We did, okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yep.
My name is Mika Lassala. I'm from Topper Land Survey, and this is a continued meeting. Last time, with the lack of a planning department head, you had requested that this goes out for peer review. This went out to peer review for Graves, and actually we received the peer review this morning, and we responded to the peer review comments. Generally, the peer review comments are no response needed, or, I mean, no revisions required. They were flagging out a few items, and what I think most of these items could be addressed as just general comments or general conditions on the permit, if the board so wishes, versus making revisions, because they're very, in our opinion, very minor.
All right, now, this did come in this morning, so I don't know that board members have had a chance to review Graves' letter yet. Okay. So we do have both Graves' letter and the applicant's response to Graves' letter on the computers. So if you'll bear with us for a moment just to review.
That's fine.
Right?
And if I may, because we lost a member, and now we have, Mr. Allison is on, so I'm not sure how much he's gotten a chance to review through the previous submittal,
Oh,
or the previous presentation.
I've been here for 13 years.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Just,
Sorry, that's fine.
yeah, no, I don't, were you here for the first
he
presentation?
was not. So that's, I was just,
Okay.
I was not. What date was that?
It was the last meeting we
May
had, May
12th, I
12th.
believe.
I was here for that.
No, that's why we,
Unless you were a ghost, but you
May 12th,
definitely
you weren't here.
I was not here? Oh,
no, because that's why we didn't open the first hearing that we opened tonight, we didn't open it on May 12th, because you weren't here, we didn't want to just, because they couldn't do anything, we didn't want to open and then create a Mullen Rule issue later, because that
With
would
the
be
special
the
permit.
one you could miss.
okay. This stormwater special permit is technically not a special permit requirement, doesn't require the 4.
Yeah, it's just a stormwater management permit, we
So
don't need
Just the
a,
3 is okay.
yeah, 3 is fine.
But you do need all 3 of them to agree.
Correct.
And you know this, but for the sake of everyone here and at home, there's rules if you miss a meeting with a special, with a public hearing on what needs to happen in order for you to vote at that public hearing. That does not stop the member from participating in the public hearing, only in the voting if that Mullen Rule requirements have not been met. All right. Okay, I see, I think we've had the opportunity to read this. So I see, yeah, Graves overall, to my assessment, seems to find everything in line, has a couple requests for changes, small ones. The applicant suggests that we could simply phrase those as conditions if we feel they are valid. That's a whole board decision if we want to handle it that way or not, or want to see the changes listed more explicitly. We also have, I know there's public here who wants to speak on this, and we have some emails and things we've received as well. So I'm going to first turn to the board and say, with what we have now, do we have any questions? Once we're done with that, I'm going to turn to the public for public input, public comment. Okay. All right, then I'm going to turn and open for public comment. If you want to speak, come on up, please, and then when you're up here, just make sure you give us your name and address and share your piece.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. My name is Carl Strathmeyer. I live at 39 Valley Road, but I'm not here tonight speaking in my personal capacity. I'm speaking on behalf of the Board of Directors of Hickory Hills Landowners, Inc. This is the entity that owns Hickory Hills Lake. And in that role, they also watch out for the interests of the more than 500 property owners in the lake community. So I'm here tonight speaking on their behalf. I've already provided Logan with a written version of our comments. You have those in front of you. I've organized these comments into several different topics just to keep things on track. So I've already handled the first one on the write-up, who I am and who I'm speaking for. Second, why are we here? Why do we care? Why did we notice in the ledger legal notices that this project was underway? This project and the lake are hydrologically connected. The project engineer has already noted in his report that the stormwater discharged by this property goes into catch basins, it goes under Townsend Harbor Road, goes down an embankment. We followed the map, it goes into a wetland. That wetland discharges directly into the lake. And it discharges into a cove of the lake where, number one, there is a community beach, and number two, in recent years, there have been increasing problems with aquatic vegetation. And we know that aquatic vegetation, when it goes wild, and when it goes nuts, often due to excessive nutrients. Stormwater produces excessive nutrients, and so we're just concerned. We're just watching the process. So that's why we're here tonight for a parcel that you wouldn't ordinarily think maybe was connected to our interests. So that's point number 2. Number 3, very crucial to this application, is the concept of maximum extent possible. And our reading of this principle in the regulations is that it's meant to relieve a property owner from the excessive burden of trying to meet certain requirements in the regulations that even though the property owner's heart is in the right place, maybe there's a difficult requirement there that is burdensome in its cost or difficulty, and it's not going to make a huge difference to the outcome or the performance of the project. So, all right, you have the discretion as a board to say, okay, they're doing the maximum extent practicable stormwater treatment, and that's fine. However, in our view, that principle is not meant to allow a project to go forward if it's really unsuitable for the site in question. If it's just at its heart, it's not suitable for the site that's being proposed. It's obviously up to the board's discretion here to decide if that is the case, but there are some things that lead us to believe that maybe this is not particularly suitable, mostly because of the high water table that the project engineer noted in his report. High water table, very saturated soil, and so, today it's pasture grass, tomorrow if it's impermeable surfaces and so forth, things are going to change. Which brings me to point 4, comment number 4. In the description of current conditions, there are I actually went out to the site. In fact, if you flip to the end of my handout there's a photograph of analysis point 3 in the flow model. And when I went out there, it was the morning of May 5th. There had been about 3/4 of an inch of rain the night before. That's not a huge amount of rain. And you see there's quite a bit of standing water there. None of that was forecast by the flow model. Now, I'm not, nothing against the engineering here, but this tells me that the computer model of that flow was unable to properly model the actual soil conditions. This is technically permeable soil, but it's already soaked during a rainstorm. And so we end up with that water standing next to Townsend Harbor Road at analysis point 3. So that, in the description of current conditions, that already sets off some alarm bells in our minds, especially because that photograph, that's where the leach field for septic system lot 3 is planned to be. I know that's going to be up on a mound, but it doesn't seem to us that if that site was properly modeled, I doubt the Neshoba Board of Health would say, hey, the perfect spot for a leach field. So there's something different. Our point is there's something different going on here, maybe, than the theoretical models that are coming out of the flow modeling process. All right, comment number 5. We know that this site has a very high water table. The current coverage of that parcel is very dense, very well established pasture grass. And we know from a stormwater point of view that that's about the best treatment for that area you could possibly have, because the pasture grass will distribute the stormwater, it'll reduce the velocity, it'll allow the vegetation to either absorb or metabolize the nutrients in that stormwater. So in terms of water being discharged from the site, right now we're in the best possible situation we could have, and the site is still discharging a significant amount of stormwater onto Townsend Harbor Road. So again, it comes back to the question of the modeling. So on to number 6, some specific comments about surface water. the project engineer has stated that this total amount of surface water being shed by the site post-construction will be essentially identical to the current situation, the current state of things. There are several aspects of this that we at least question and are looking maybe for some confirmation of. And I have these listed. There are 3 of them. First of all, the roof gutters. Okay, so the roof gutters are going to concentrate stormwater, going to come down the downspouts, going to be conducted horizontally to a lower point of the grade of the embankment, and it's going to be just discharged out onto the surface of the soil again. Now, if this were permeable soil and wasn't already saturated, fine, right? We got riprap there to avoid the erosion. But if the soil's already saturated, as we know it must be because it's shedding water off-site already, what's going to happen to that water? I don't see how it's going to be infiltrated back into the soil of the site. And so net, there must be additional stormwater discharged onto the surface that won't be infiltrated, and it's got to be discharged off-site somehow. So second, foundation drains. Again, we know that the water table on this site is very high. The footings for the foundations are by necessity going to be down within the water table because on this site, the frost line is lower than the water table line. Okay, so if we put footings in and if we put a French drain around that, and then we take the drainage from that French drain and do the same thing, we take it horizontally until the grade falls away and we can daylight it. What we built is an artesian well. It's going to be constantly running. It's going to be drawing water out of the water table and discharging it to the surface. And again, just like my previous point, I don't see how that's going to be infiltrated if during a storm event the soil is already saturated. Finally, impervious driveway. There's a lot of impervious driveway on this site. The longest one, I think, is on Lot 1. It's about 400 feet of driveway, about 15 feet wide, according to my measurement on the plan. 1 inch of rain on that driveway will generate 3,750 gallons of stormwater. I know the plan, and it's also a 6% grade on that driveway, says the plan. That's a lot of stormwater. I know there's a plan, a suggested treatment of that in the project design, where there's going to be a rise in the driveway to either stop the water from running onto Townsend Harbor Road or to divert it to one side or another. That's a lot of water for 1 inch of rain. That's going to have to be a pretty big dip. And if the water is diverted, again, where does it go? We know this site won't accept or won't allow like a retention pond, right? I mean, we're asking for waivers for such things. So where's the water going to go? I don't see any way that it's going to be infiltrated anyhow, and it's going to be, again, discharged off-site. So, again, these are questions. You know, I'm looking for answers, you know, from the design perspective, but those are concerns. On to the next point. The Stormwater Handbook says, standard number 2, that post-construction we can't be discharging peak flow into a wetland any greater than the pre-construction sort of things. We know, according to the plan and the engineer's report, that a lot of flow is going to, a lot of stormwater is going to be redirected from analysis point 3, or flow 30, I guess, to analysis point 2, or flow 20. Flow 20 goes into a wetland. It's a small wetland that abuts or is on, crosses the property line between this site and the abutter to the south. And if we look at the flow tables, the last page of my handout here, post-development on that flow 20, the flows are about 37% higher for every category of storm. Now, it seems to us that, that's definitely higher flow, and it's definitely not meeting the requirements of that standard number 2 in the stormwater handbook. If we look at, just to take an extreme example, if we look at a 100-year storm that seem to happen every 3 years these days, we're looking at for a 100-year storm, the absolute amount of increase is 2.8 cubic feet per second, or about 21 gallons per second increase into that neighbor's wetland. That seems to me to be substantial. So at the very least, I think we need to demonstrate that that kind of an increase to that wetland, to an abutter who was here at the May 12th hearing session, complaining about water in his basement already from a different neighbor's project, that at least we need to assure that abutter that this isn't going to create more problems. Quickly now, moving on to my comment number 9, what happens after the builder builds the homes and individual people purchase them? Are there any obligations on those new owners to maintain the kinds of stormwater controls that were in this design? Two-thirds of the site is still going to be pasture grass because according to the design, we're only going to disturb 2-point-something acres out of the nearly 8 or 9 acres. Are those people, those new buyers, obligated to maintain that pasture grass as a stormwater control measure, or can they put in a patio? Can they put in retaining walls or whatever? I don't know. I honestly don't know what ability the board has to make whatever conditions you set obligations of future owners as well, or whether things can change as soon as the ownership changes. So that's about it. I think all of this obviously comes down to the waivers for the maximum practicable kinds of actions, and I don't see much in the way of effective stormwater control or treatment at all here. It's basically, well, the site's so waterlogged that we can't put in retention ponds, we can't do this, we can't do that. I think just, again, it's obviously in the board's discretion to grant the waivers or not, but I think hopefully I've raised a few questions. Maybe there are answers. But I think before those waivers are granted, we need to assure ourselves that, even though the control efforts are difficult, that they're still effective. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is where I would turn to the applicant and say, we have citizens who have collectively brought forward several concerns. I would love to give you the opportunity to respond to those, and I suspect the board as well will have some follow-up questions on that.
I would like to have the ability to have the comments provided to me as well.
Oh.
This is just thrown on me to answer everything specifically. So I will make my best approach to remember which each comment was and how to address them. Thank you.
We can.
And I'm assuming you must have copies of these, each member. I don't deny the hydraulic connection that exists. This property is higher than Hickory Hills, flows. It's just a natural flow of water. That is correct. Maximum extent practicable. Okay.
I do want to let you know, if you would prefer to review these and come back to us at our next meeting with more thoughtful answers, you're welcome to. You don't have. I don't want to force you to shoot from the hip.
Okay.
If you're welcome to comment, but I don't want you to feel like you have to respond in this second. If you feel it would be better to take them, review, come back. Perfectly fine.
And I'd like to also, that your peer review had taken a look at this, and that was one of the comments, I believe, that you said, has this been looked at closer? The board requested another independent review of the drainage.
I would need to know what that second independent review would be looking at.
No, I'm just saying, you had Graves look at
Yes.
the drainage and the
Yeah.
hydraulic assumptions for
Graves-
the site.
Graves, the town's peer reviewer, did look at it and provided his feedback, which was overall minimal. Now, where Graves doesn't tend to chime in much also is on things like, in my experience, maximum extent practicable. And we'll say, yeah, that's what this is. He doesn't say, well, let me phrase. He says, that is what these conditions require. His comment doesn't get into, this is the maximum extent practicable or not. Simply, that's the standard we're going for because that's a, yeah, that is somewhat qualitative in evaluating the quantitative data. So I want to set that expectation as well.
Okay, and if, let's say we go in Wetlands Protection Act, which we're not in the Wetlands Protection Act for the proposed project, that sets parameters for maximum and practicable. For stormwater, it does not, the code does not identify script inverse cost, benefits analysis, riverfront analysis. There's a process to go through. So the code and the requirements are somewhat silent on some of these matters.
Yes, it is. That's where we, and again, for the public, this is one of those cases where it's helpful to have a planner present because they're the ones who then have the experience to say and make, I mean, the planner, interim, hired by the town, doesn't matter, doesn't make decisions for the board. However, they are available as an expert to say, in general, this is what I've seen. In general, this is how I have seen these things handled. And that does impact the individual members' thoughts on the topic. So you are welcome to respond tonight. If you want to take this back, review, you are very welcome to. I don't want you to feel put on the spot.
What's your thought?
It's a little short notice, just having that sprung on us right now at the meeting without any time to devour. We can try to answer questions off the top of our head.
Which most of them I can, but there's...
You're welcome to do both. You don't have to pick. You can comment now and then take it back, give it some thought. It would have been better if we could have gotten this to you quicker. By the same token, topics can always come up at the public hearing when raised by the public, so.
Correct, but if a written response was provided to you, it would have been a courtesy to provide it to us as well.
Yeah.
It's dated today, by the way.
No, that's,
Received, yeah, very.
Okay, well, we received Graves's review this morning.
I understand.
And then we gave a response immediately. So we've been trying to be reactive to the questions and concerns that the board has, that the abutters have. And yes, maximum and practicable, the stormwater standards do identify, and your regulations require low-impact development. What is low-impact development? Low-impact development is to minimize impervious, minimize your extent of alterations. Some of the tenets of low-impact development, especially the credits that DEP provides 1, 2, and 3, if you satisfy, I'll go through credit 1, if you do 25% of your property deed restriction, you satisfy standards 3 and 4, which is the water quality and the recharge. Here, given the wetlands that we have on the property, 1.23 acres of wetland, and the subsequent 30-foot no-touch, 50-foot buffer zones, we end up with 27% of the property that's restricted, that we would need to go to Conservation Commission to do anything. So that's one of the answers to one of the questions of, can homeowners just willy-nilly go out there and do anything? There's parts of this property, there's a lot of wetlands out there that we purposefully positioned this to avoid that. We purposely positioned the development within the existing 4.2 acre field, and our total disturbance on the property is about 2.4 acres. So we've tried to really focus in on low impact development, reduce the alterations, and respect the drainage flow patterns as they are. Yes, runoff additionally runs off the 6% driveway that was mentioned here, then flows off the site into the woods, into a wooded area, and then ultimately hits a stone wall, which is a natural energy dissipator. The portions of the driveway that connect to Townsend Harbor Road are relatively flat, 1%. So these driveways aren't shedding the entirety of their water. We are dispersing it evenly throughout the site. So it's, if we were to, let's say, do a traditional system with catch basins, 4-bay infiltration basins, you're condensing flow. Here, we are dispersing flow as it naturally does. With the high points, the septic systems that are raised naturally created kind of our pathways into the site. And yes, one of the comments, the Neshoba Board of Health has approved this already, just for the record. And one of the lots, we're going to have an RDA filing for Lot 5 because our closest alterations for the footing drain is 75 feet from the vegetated wetland. So I just kind of going to hit the highlight reel of our approach and what we've done. As far as conditions, I'm not sure what your bylaws and what your normal protocol is for A&R lots and what kind of restrictions you can place on those lots in the future. I'm assuming there can be a deed restriction that's placed. I'm not sure how that works. In perpetuity for each of the lots, is there a restriction that they need to come before the board for a review of the proposed additions or modifications or ongoing conditions? I'm not sure how that is worked in. It's not like a subdivision, it's not like a site plan, because you're gonna have 5 independent owners. How are you gonna restrict that? So that's kind of I think a problematic, legality-wise.
That is, in some ways, a classic stormwater issue, and that is something the board has struggled with, taken steps. It is a consistent issue where we take steps to meet that need. And it's usually different than this, in that a lot of this is effectively, and I might use terms that are technical, I don't mean them technical, I mean everyday speak. If I use a technical term on accident, please, I don't mean, this is a fairly passive, comparatively passive system where we see a lot of stormwater that is highly constructed with a lot of intentional infiltration points with things like rain gardens. And those systems require a great deal, not necessarily a great deal, but they do require maintenance. You can't just let them be. Now, this has some to that effect, but not as much as we typically see. And that is the area we've struggled in the past, and we, I know we do for the multi-unit ones, but I think for these as well, we do require the maintenance plan and everything be included, correct?
You asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking all of us for that memory, because I'm not looking at the bylaw and reading it word by word at this moment.
What we've done in the past, and I'm speaking specifically of the Mulpus Crossroad development, they originally came to us with a stormwater plan that mixed and matched and ran from one lot to another. And they came back and revised it, and they kept the runoff on individual lots, as I recall, because we were questioning on how, so then that brought our requirements up to stormwater easements and agreements, right? Cross agreements and whatnot. So as long as they keep the stormwater on their own lot and all the appurtenances required to do so were on their own lot, then that was adequate to eliminate the need for cross easements. However, we do require that the stormwater permit be referenced in the deed.
Yes.
So that ensures the maintenance.
So there is the mechanism, that was my,
That's the
what,
mechanism.
the mechanism.
The A&Rs, we don't have any say over.
No.
You come up with this with lot width and area and frontage, and we have to okay it.
Correct,
And because it's single-family lot development on single-family lots, then this maximum extent practicable comes in. Because it is single-family homes, not condo development or commercial. So that's where the failure, for a better word, the lacks in the regulations. They're not as strong on single-family homes. And it's,
because a lot of the measures are really difficult to meet on a single-family home. You know, and also, when you have on-site septic systems, we don't have on-site wells, that adds another factor. Here we have town water, so it complicates, and it makes basically impossible with the offsets to do a lot of those things. And as I had stated earlier, again, yes, we are aware of the high water, and that's part of the stormwater model for the site is the existing hydraulic conditions, the CED soils, those take into account the higher runoffs off the property. And yes, there may be micro puddling in front of some of the structures, and then particularly analysis point 30 by the street. Our intent is to reduce the tributary area out to the street and rechannelize it, adding longer time of concentration flows for that flow path for that trickle of water to go through natural vegetation for both for treatment and potential, given the season, given the time of year, more recharge into the ground ultimately.
A point I want to raise, just for everyone's understanding, with Ms. Faranucci coming out as our interim planner, the good news is, where Lunenburg has, in the grand scheme, fairly strict stormwater guidelines compared to what's required in the state and compared to many municipalities. And that's by design from this board in an attempt to protect the environment that we really enjoy and cherish in town. The good news is Ms. Faranucci does have significant stormwater experience as well. So as she's coming on, she will be able to review this with us. No, she's not an engineer, but coming to her as a planner with stormwater is not rare for her. She is well equipped on that front. So she will also be able to function as a good translator between everyone as well. She literally only got her email address assigned this morning. So when I say it's new, there's a reason you haven't heard from her yet, but she'll be getting looped in.
And as far as the waiver request for the TSS and the 60% phosphates, those again, driven by the Stormwater Management Handbook, which your regulations refer to, is basically the cookbook for how to construct stormwater for given treatment levels. Now, if we augment that and you introduce things that don't match what they scripted in the cookbook, it's very difficult to report. I'm not going to make an independent study to how much of a pollutant load reduction is, and that's again why the maximum extent practical, again, because it's single-family homes, it's a relatively small development, and even the state realizes that's why they give the threshold beyond 4. When you go to 5 to 9, to the maximum that you can. And here, too, we've taken the effort to distribute the stormwater. We realize that the site has some challenges. It's a high water table, wetlands, and it was used for agriculture, as we just earlier tonight, the 61A, and that was, this property was not, the first right of refusal was passed by the town, so.
Yep. All right. So I'll turn to the board. I have some thoughts, but I want to hear from you, again, because I'm a default voice. And if you don't have anything, that's fine. I'm not looking to force speech.
Well, we did get it peer reviewed by Graves, and Graves didn't have an issue with any of the comments. I'm looking through, they've got soil logs in their plan set. They did 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 percolation tests, and the highest perk rate was 12 minutes per inch, which is pretty good. They've got steeples of over 20 of them. I think 16 inches was the highest groundwater elevation I saw. Goes down to 24, 20,
We're in the 20s.
yeah.
Average, I'd say 22.
But with a perk rate like that, the subsoil is readily accepting of water. Because of the high groundwater, you can't do infiltration trenches along the driveway.
Can't store water in water.
Yeah, and it goes to the town drainage system. If the town drainage system outfalls into the lake, that's kind of the town's problem. It's not this landowner's problem. The town is very deficient in a lot of things, which is another reason that we need to get to our planning focus. But this, as Graves has said, not in my own words, but in Graves' review, this stormwater system is adequate for the site and the proposed development.
What I would, if you're able to answer this tonight, great. If not, understood completely. I heard the public comment about concern saying that after a 3/4 inch rain, paraphrasing, after a 3/4 inch rain, there was pooling, and that seems to indicate the model may not be sufficient. I anticipate you feel the model is sufficient, and so I would love to hear, I would just love to hear more about that to understand.
I haven't seen the picture, I think there was a picture or whatever, but
Yeah.
that location I'm familiar with. It's flat, there's some microtopography in there, we have 1-foot contouring, there's dips and rolls throughout the property that we don't account, that you do miss, so that happens throughout. However, knowing that there's a catch basin there tied into the street system, tied into Hickory Lakes, we took the intent of redirecting that stormwater as much as we can away from the street, internal into the site, for treatment, for water quality, and also the longer the flow path is, if we have a driveway that goes directly into the street, it short circuits everything. So that's again why we've graded the driveways as we have to keep the runoff minimized onto the street. What we have is along the road right-of-way, each of the driveways, it's more evident in the septic plans that are at 20 scale. We've got a spot grade at each driveway. Basically, so the only runoff you're getting really is from the right-of-way to the street. So we're trying to direct it into the site. So yeah, there are, in that structure, there's some broken pavement and some berms and such. So I can see the inefficiency of how water's getting to that structure, so I wouldn't doubt it at all that it puddles right in front of it.
Yeah, all right, great, thank you. All right. I'd like to turn to and see if there's any other public comment. We do have more public comment.
Hi, I'm Heidi Ash, 85 Wildwood Road. I'm part of Hickory Hills. I'm on the board of directors. I'm the chairperson of the Lake Management Group. I get the lab results from the stormwater that comes into the lake, the water quality of the lake, so forth and so on. So I do have concerns that excess stormwater flowing into the town's drainage, into the lake. So, you know, you can write it off as it's not the land, but the town. But as a lake resident, it affects us big time. On a separate thing, because Mr. Strathmeyer covered a lot of ground, behind me on my road is the Townsend line, and it was 2019, there was somebody that wanted to develop some land back there. They went in, they clear cut the land, and then they had a list of, it was something like 75 waivers that they presented to the town. And I attended tons of planning board meetings on that to try to reduce the amount of waivers that they were allowed to have. From my personal experience, after cutting all the trees and all the brush, my property started flooding. My neighbor's property started flooding. And that water then went into the drains that fed into the lake, increasing the numbers of our nutrients again. So my concern is that big changes on 100 Townsend Harbor Road, will have similar effects to the lake, just coming from a different direction. Also affecting any property around, because when you make these big changes, all of a sudden neighbors start having their backyards and their basements flood. So that's a concern. I mean, I'm not the owner, but I'm speaking on behalf of people who live around there. That's a concern. So my biggest concern is that we're not overlooking a bunch of waivers to make this happen, just to get more housing in Lunenburg. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have public concern. We are limited in what we can and can't address, as always, because things like site plan approval, stormwater management are effectively checklists. We're here to make sure everything's being done correctly. Now, this has more, not wishy-washy, but more subtlety and less clarity than we might sometimes see with some other projects. Doesn't mean it's inherently bad at all, but it does mean there's more room for...
It's the nature of the project.
Yeah, no, it is, very much so. We have engineering, we have a peer review of the engineering saying it does look solid. Would like to see a couple small changes. I welcome more thought from the board. Personally, I think I would rather we had, knowing that we have a planner in our pocket ready to go, I would personally feel more comfortable if she were with us at the meeting where we were voting on this to make sure that we're doing everything correctly. So I am pretty strongly would prefer that we continue this to our next meeting where Jasmine can be with us to make sure we're hitting everything correctly. Personally, my gut says I think with Jeff Walsh's recommendations, we're probably pretty close to fine. But I'd like to have someone here who can make sure that's the case, make sure what we're voting on is correct, and can also help translate for those concerns that can be mitigated, that she could help translate that for us effectively. That would also give the applicant time to look at the public comments, review them, see if there's anything they wish to do about them or comment about them, or leave them alone, as is their right. But I don't know what other board members think. Now, I did see you.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I was just thinking about the Hickory Lakes. One of the tenets of Stormwater 2 is to reduce your impervious, and one of the thresholds really is the percent impervious of the project. And the magic number that a lot of communities have is 15% impervious, especially when you have on-site wells. Here, we're at 6% impervious for the site. One of the issues with stormwater as well is phosphates, with the waiver that we're requesting. In this part of the state, we have very high iron soils, and part of the binding action of treating phosphate is, actually, I was just at the DEP seminar, and how they deal with septic systems is they add electrical current to a septic tank to facilitate dropping out the phosphate, the chemical reaction that's occurring. Here, the soils that we have are really conducive for treatment, which is another reason for the long times of concentration that we've tried to mitigate water directly going in the street, and because that's usually your flash point of pollutants is right off your impervious areas. So if you can slow that down and redirect it over vegetation, and the perk testing that we had out there was favorable as well. So there is leaching that goes on. Again, during the wet periods that we've been having, yes, it's infiltration is not something that you can rely on throughout the year and to quantify. And again, why we're asking for the waivers, and we're asking for the waivers because your regs say follow the handbook, and well, I'm trying to follow the handbook to the best that I can.
Understood, and thank you. On the other hand, we are able to close the hearing and vote on this tonight, if that's what we wish to do. What are our thoughts?
I think we're in such a position that more information wouldn't be harmful. And if we've got somebody with experience coming on, I don't see why we shouldn't utilize that knowledge.
My other thought is I just want to make sure that our decision is even things like where the applicant asked, could we just include this as a condition? I really want to make sure that that's done tightly and well. And that has, and that's also, I admit, like having gone a lot of site walks with Brian Gingras recently, having everything really tightly put together ends up being an asset for the boots on the ground doing the building as well, and I want to make sure we're giving them the best info possible. I saw Amanda kind of nodding in agreement. You have thoughts, Matt?
Well, I think the Graves was pretty clear, and I don't disagree with your thoughts on Jasmine Farinacci coming.
Yep.
That's good. I wouldn't see a problem with approving it tonight, or voting on it tonight, but I don't disagree with you, with your sentiment that it would be nice to have her with us.
Okay. So if we approve it tonight, I'd also like us to go in, hopefully, with the understanding that we're really looking for a final answer next meeting, because if...
We can't approve it tonight and get an answer next meeting.
What?
We can't approve it tonight and get an answer next meeting.
No, but that's what I'm saying is, no, I'm sorry, I meant if we approve if we continue was the wording I meant. Bad word. If we continue to the next meeting, I'd like us to go in with the thought that we're gunning for an answer, one way or another. I mean, for the sake of the applicant, I want to make sure we can, while we want to do our due diligence, we don't want to drag our feet longer than needed. All right. So it sounds like the board would overall be comfortable waiting so Ms. Farinacci can join us. And that mean we could, let me double check, can you be here for our next meeting on the 23rd?
July?
June.
June.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to, I don't want to boot you to the end of July, that's cruel. Okay. So I would look for a motion such as to continue the public hearing for 100 Townsend Harbor Road Stormwater Management Permit to our meeting on June 23rd, 2025 at 6:05 PM.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What additional information do you want from the applicant?
One sec, sorry.
Are you having your new planner go through?
Yeah, so-
The submittal documents, our response,
What-
Graves' review?
I will try to speak with Jasmine tomorrow, or the next day if not.
Okay.
And if you want to give more response to the public comment, you are certainly welcome to. That's entirely your call. In my experience, I find addressing the public comment can just help the project overall, because often, I don't know everything in this case, but often it's a matter of laying out the engineering in plain speak easy enough to be able to address, this is what we're taking care of. This isn't being addressed for whatever reason. I suspect once I talk with Jasmine, she may want to reach out to y'all, and we'll reach out if that's the case. Because she will be fulfilling that planner role for the town, and will be having that liaison with you.
If I may, my recommendation would be you address the comments that were in the Graves review and just revise your plans and have those submitted before the meeting.
I would say, that would be helpful, rather than putting it, since we have the time, rather than putting it into the decision later. If it gets into the plans, we don't even
Okay.
have to worry about that.
And that was my point for making the comment, is if you approve it tonight, you can make a condition.
Yeah.
Addressing that, I can make those changes. That's the Graves' comment. They were,
Small.
They were minor, yeah.
yeah,
No.
it was just,
But if they can get into the plans, that's easier. It's on the plan of record, very simple that way. Okay?
yeah,
Perfect.
that can be done.
Great, all right.
All right.
Well, thank you so
All
much
right,
for
thank you.
joining us, and hopefully we'll get everything buttoned up as we need and get everything we can addressed for next, on the 23rd. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have board discussions for MBTA Communities Act. That was there in case we want to talk about things more, but I kind of laid out the basis for us already. If you can make those meetings, great. If not, we're going to work on getting them recorded, get that info for us to review, and have that public input. Once it's finished, I can share that presentation with everyone as well. But the presentation is largely the info we got from Community Scale, gussied up to look a little nicer, as well as some of the topics we talked about, basically saying, okay, I think the big ones would be, yeah, this land's owned by Housing Authority, really not touchable. Here are some of our other choices. I would lay out for the Leominster Shirley Road area that, one, that is zoned industrial, doesn't mean we can't do it, but two, the owner has, after speaking with the owner's owned that property for 25 years and hasn't been able to sell it for industrial use because it would, for modern industrial use, it would require moving something like 3 million yards
Well,
in order to level it.
Not only that, there's no services out there. There's no water and there's no sewer.
No, that would require, either way, that would require a, the property does border Leominster, but, yeah, no, there are some limitations on that, but if it were to be developed there, as well as pointing out that that Tri-Town, if we go for the paper compliance route, which is taking credit for the work we've done, it was zoned at 20 units per acre, built at 14 or 17, whatever it is. They didn't even build for the max zoning. So bumping it up to 26 and going the paper compliance route, in the long run, could result in, maybe in 20 or 30 years, that could result in new development there, but it's unlikely to in any reasonable timescale. As well as illustrate, just kind of laying out, there's some misconceptions that the public has, that I even had until recently, that a lot of this dense housing in communities east of us that are more urban, MBTA community says it has to be family friendly. In practice, yeah, what they're calling family friendly is very family friendly in the more urban areas, but where that missing middle is kind of hyper dense for Lunenburg, that doesn't draw in families, and the numbers kind of show it, that kind of development, it doesn't pull in a lot more kids to the school district or anything, as would be our fear. Just kind of laying out some of those components, and then the kind of calculation options, and soliciting public input on that and discussion. Just laying out the expectation there. We can have more discussion, but, because it's here, but that's basically what I wanted to make sure y'all were aware of. All right, and then on the 23rd, we vote. Abutting community notices.
Let me pull up, I had a table. Of course not. A lot of public hearings for later in this month, mostly from Lancaster and I want to say Townsend. And then there was a good chunk of notices from Fitchburg that I got in the mailbox as I was going out the door today, but I didn't have the time to get into the materials for this meeting, unfortunately.
Anything really big and critical for us, or just the usual?
No, I think Leominster updated their flood insurance stuff the same way we did, if that's of any interest.
Yeah. Here we go. Oh, I should have included that in my report. FEMA approved our floodplains stuff. We're all set. FEMA's good. Residents get to keep their flood insurance and can get it if they need it. That's all squared away. All right. That brings us on to committee reports. I'm going to do them slightly out of order because I believe Ms. Duffy has to step away for a spell, and I bet she's going to want to be here for Master Plan Steering Committee. Open Space Committee. Congratulations.
Just had a meeting about an hour ago. Everybody was here for it, so.
Great. Master Plan Steering Committee.
Okay. So after Ms. Duffy's comments, I did a little digging, and the general definition given to quorum is it consists of a number as large as can be depended upon to be present at all meetings. It doesn't specify anywhere that it has to be more than half of a board. So if we don't have anything in our town documents that says it has to be at least half of the board, setting a 5-person core as required for quorum makes a lot of sense to me. And had this come up as an option, it would have been a great thing to have put in place.
I think we may have that requirement as a town because
Okay.
every board and committee in town uses that limit. So maybe not, but I can follow up on that.
It did also specify that generally the unwritten idea is for it to be more than 50% of the board. It's something that has a default, but that default is not binding.
All right, let me, I can follow up with, probably with the town manager on that one, because I believe she's going to be the expert on that, and get exactly what we need on that front. And I will have that, well, I will have it, I was going to say before, I will have it for our next meeting, which means I will also have it before the Master Plan Steering Committee meeting, because that's 2 days later. No, Rami is aware of, sorry, Rami from Over Under is aware of those goings-on as well. Trying to think, I got to set up a call with him. And we can see how that's addressed. Yeah, did you have any other questions while we're on the topic?
Just general about the topic, if that's okay, just to contribute.
Sure.
Straight. All right. Kim Duffy, 1479 Mass Ave. Yeah, so I was also looking into it in the meantime, about the quorum definition, Mass General Law C30A, Section 18, defines it as a simple majority of the members of a public body unless another number is required by law. It can be specified by law, or charter. Generally discouraged, but temporarily used would probably be okay. However, Master Plan Steering Committee isn't chartered by law. It's a subcommittee that's charged by the Planning Board. So Planning Board has, from my research, full authority to change the charge for the Master Plan Steering Committee to determine the quorum number. So seems like, yes, check, but seems legal if you guys approve it and then it's posted, since we are a subcommittee charged by you. But yeah, that would be my recommendation. My recommendation, and I put out like a bunch of pros and cons. All pros lead towards reducing the quorum to a specific number. Ideally, I think 5 would be great. More people can come if they want to, but it would allow us to keep doing things. So,
I would actually turn to the board on this one. We've been kind of rejiggering that committee as needed. I don't think that's bad. If we are allowed to shift the quorum for that committee, and I'm less I believe I am less convinced it's as easy as other people in this room are convinced. That said, I'm happy to be proven wrong. Thrilled, even. As a board, if it can be shifted, if we can change the quorum, do we want to change the quorum before the Master Plan Steering Committee's next meeting? Or since they're anticipating having the current quorum, do we want to let them meet first, give us a recommendation, and then enact that at the following meeting?
I'm sorry, just so I can clarify, you're
Yeah.
saying have the board itself determine if we want to adjust the quorum
Yeah,
number.
so
Okay.
if we can change quorum, my opinion, if we can change quorum, then yes, we should, because that would make it easier. That's just my opinion, though. But then it becomes a thing of when. We could do it at our next meeting, put it on the agenda, have a vote. Or we could let the Master Plan Steering Committee meet first, since they do have a meeting, or are about to have a meeting scheduled for 2 days later. Let them give us what they would like to see, and then we can have that data point for our discussion. I'd rather we didn't shift quorum, they meet, shift quorum again. It's not that we can't, but that's a lot of moving pieces in my mind. I'm comfy either way.
While I do want to give the board, choices in decision-making in its own existence, scheduling these things has been such a consistent struggle that, I wouldn't be opposed to making that decision unilaterally. And if there's fallout, I don't anticipate there being, but then that being on me. Yeah.
I'm getting a nod from Amanda.
Yeah, I'd agree. Mr. Reed is part of the Master Plan Steering Committee, and I would say most of the meetings he attempts to attend they don't have a quorum. So it's kind of pointless if we keep pretending we're gonna have quorum for master plan, and it keeps getting canceled and it keeps getting canceled. Because we're done in September, from what I remember. Like, this is all supposed to be over in September, and it is June.
Yep. I do not expect for a second it will be over in September. This is my non-member of that committee, but having been involved in watching it, and due to quorum issues, and then due to
Summer.
quorum issues, summer, the fact that there are many people who are comparatively new on that committee who weren't there for a lot of the previous work, and thus are getting up to speed on a lot of it. I cannot imagine a time frame where that works. Maybe it could, but it doesn't, because then it would have to get to us, we'd have to approve it. There's more steps. But I'm fine. Matt, do you have any thoughts before we go on?
I'm pretty sure we tried to address this with Richard Harris before he left, and then I think we addressed it again with Chris Riley. And if just simply changing the quorum number was an option, I'm pretty sure that somebody would have mentioned it.
That's why I don't think it's doable. I think there must be something in the town charter or in how we're reading it that's not correct, one of the two.
Well, not only that, I think that also because Richard and Chris were both relatively new to this town, it probably is on the state level. I think the simple majority that was found by both people that looked into it is well, okay, so partly the reason you try to set groups in odd numbers so you don't come to a stalemate like we did tonight.
Yep.
And then also the simple majority is made up by that additional person, which makes it very simple to figure out the quorum required by a group that you put together. We had this discussion when we made this group. We said that's a huge group. That quorum is going to suck. We had that discussion.
Yep, we did. And Kim, for the background on that, the reasoning for the large group was to get as many constituents as possible, to make sure as many constituents within the town as possible were represented. And that's where the numbers shifted back and forth. If memory serves on AgCom, I think the answer was that we had already defined so many at that point, and then we intentionally just made a point of wanting to have someone representing the agricultural community there as a member at large, because the board can still pick. We get to vote on when multiple people come in who we want for those to appoint to those roles. And if memory serves, that was an intentional choice as well, not to exclude the agricultural community, but being aware we were meeting it in a different way, assuming we could get someone in that capacity. All right, so.
Do also, come to think of it now, I can't, I'm terrible at remembering names of the members, but one of them who is currently a member at large is going to be
Emily
the
Young.
representative for the school committee. Is that right? Yes. Which means, in theory, we would have a member at large position open that if somebody from AgCom or one of the other groups we're talking about could potentially take that spot. So that's just something to put out there for whoever listens to this meeting later.
All right.
That's fair. Since one of the member at larges was eliminated, so that we only have 5.
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, if it's a matter of, if there are people, I can never guarantee how the board will vote, right? But to me, so far, the board has been, if there's people who want to be there, like, we eliminated roles because they weren't getting filled and people weren't coming, not because we were looking to deny voices. It was really to make sure the voices that were showing up could be heard. So it sounds like the steering committee has a meeting coming up. Great.
Hopefully.
People have said they'll be there.
It's happened for the last 2 years. We have not been able to meet repeatedly. I would not place a bet that this meeting will happen based on experience. I'm
Then
hopeful,
people
but
need to commit to the fact they're on a committee and be there.
agreed.
Pardon my,
Yeah.
it takes a borderline act of God or the very rare act of wife saying, no, we're leaving the state for me to not be at one of these meetings. And that really holds true for the other board members.
Agreed, but
I
we are not
wish-
setting ourselves up for success if we don't change the quorum.
Yeah, so again, based on feedback from the planning board, if changing the quorum is way simpler than we thought it was, I don't think that's likely. If it is, I'm going to make sure we have that on the next agenda for the 23rd. I'm betting it's not. In which case, it may behoove the committee to put on its next agenda, Mr. Chair, to have a discussion about how it wants to be organized. That's not a guarantee. The committee doesn't actually dictate its own existence. That's done by the planning board. But that input is valuable, for certain.
Sure.
I expect that's going to be a significant meeting because there's going to be a lot to go over with over-under as well. All right.
Yep. Okay.
And quick side item, I don't remember if I reached out to you directly, but thank you so much for what you've put into attempting to organize these meetings. It has been a consistent point of stress for me, and it's been nice seeing a different way forward. So thank you.
Yeah, anything I can do to help, because I know it gets tiresome after a while, and I appreciate your perspective. I was hoping I wasn't stepping on any toes, so.
Not at all.
Perfect, yeah, so anything I can do, but I urge you to look at the definition of quorum on masslegislator.gov, because it does provide, unless otherwise provided, guidance for quorum. So it might not be as simple, but it does provide that
I
offer
will
of
consult
language.
with the town manager to make sure that we are handling it however we are allowed. Because none of us are lawyers, and guess who was a practicing lawyer? That lady. So, well, I'm assuming she's not in there right now, but I'm pointing at her office.
She might be, I mean.
That would not
That would be
surprise
very
me.
sad.
She and Caesar just walked in earlier.
Oh, there's, okay, maybe then. All right, if they just walked in. You have the angle for that, there you go. But we'll figure it out.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Then, if that's everything from Master Plan Steering Committee, wonderful. Municipal Building Design Committee.
We have not met since town meeting, and Dave Blatt reached out to schedule, and I think it was for this, I hope it wasn't for last Thursday because I missed it, but I think it was for this Thursday too.
All right, thank you. Capital Planning Committee has not met because we're out of season. We're seeing, I think, how, I know that people are seeing how things shake out with the, because it's the board reorganization, committee reorganization time of year. I don't know how many people who have, Caesar was put there from the select board. I know Peter Beardmore left the school committee. I do not, well, just, left in the sense of did not run for reelection. I do not know if they're planning to keep him as their representative or not. And we'll see how that shakes out heading into budget season as we approach the fall.
Is capital planning, I think capital planning is required to be one of the members of one of the groups. I don't think that that group can appoint a member that's not a member of that group.
I am not certain, but it's also a 3-year term.
Right, it would make very little
And-
sense to me for that to be the case,
Yes,
because
so-
capital planning is extremely important.
Yes, and if you are elected into a 3-year term and your term on your board ends, you still have your capital planning seat by default. It doesn't, because your seat, it is a separate, it's a 3-year term that you
I
can
would
serve.
disagree with that, but that would be a town council question.
I believe that is the way it's shook out in recent years, when checked.
Okay.
But we will find out.
Years, they haven't been concerned about that 3-year thing.
Yep. Economic Development Committee, their last meeting did not happen due to quorum. Me being on it does not change because our rep is ex officio. Stormwater Task Force.
We've continued to go through the kind of suggestions and recommendations and directives we've been given. Still soliciting community input. We have a meeting with our engineer, our engineering firm for this to get an idea of what our next steps are and get some questions answered. Everything continues to make good progress.
Okay, great. Montechusett Regional Planning Commission.
We did meet last week. Pretty much the same things going on. It's nomination season. We're talking about budgeting for the future. One thing I forgot to mention in our previous meeting that was mentioned the meeting before is when they were talking about the language changing in their rules and regulations because of the federal government, forgot to mention that anything involving EPA grants, so culverts or anything like that, all of those are canceled and put on indefinite hold right now. Changes every day. It might have changed since I got that information, but I just wanted to mention that as well. That was one of the other things that was.
Does that include brownfields grants as well? They were hoping, I mean, we don't have much in the way of brownfields in town, but.
I think pretty much everything is.
They were, okay, I know they were hoping that there was indications that brownfields might be spared. All right. Who cares if there's toxic chemicals leaching into everything?
That would be L&M gas station. I don't think we finalized that yet, have we?
What's that?
That would be the gas station on Mass Ave, the old gas station.
Yeah, we have, I think we only have like 2 or 3 brownfields in town, which compared to other municipalities in the region, whew, we got it made.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, we are far better than many, thankfully. Take what you can get. Montechusett Joint Transportation Committee.
I think we did meet after our last meeting, but it's been a while. I don't have anything to report. We're going to meet again this week.
Cool.
I think.
Great. Minutes approval for our May 12th meeting.
Can I make a motion? I already read them.
Yeah, I've gone through.
Okay. Motion to approve the planning board minutes for our May 12th, 2025 meeting.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Rock and, oh, so I should ask, are there any opposed?
I'm sorry.
Abstention?
I can abstain or I can be in favor. Either way, it doesn't matter.
I didn't-
It does say me absent, so.
Yes. No, you're welcome. I didn't see you vote. That's why I was going through.
I was commenting that for Logan's sake, for
Yep.
the record keeping.
All right, okay. Great. Meeting schedule. We meet unless otherwise noted, 6 PM here at our town hall. We are on the second floor, Bellata Meeting Room, I mean, the big meeting room. And our upcoming meetings include June 23rd and July 14th.
And I think before then, there's the info sessions for.
Oh, and we do have, again, thank you, we do have 2 info sessions that are scheduled as planning board meetings. Again, the business of those is conducting the info sessions. They are scheduled as board meetings. That way, everyone knows if the board's there, we can talk to each other. Again, because open meeting law is a little weird.
Sorry, that thought occurred to me earlier in the meeting. Is it just being set up so that it can be a meeting, and if enough people show up, then it is, and if not enough people show up, then it's just not?
That's literally the way every meeting works.
Well, yes, okay. But I mean, we don't already know ahead of time if there's going to be enough people for it to be a meeting, so we're just scheduling it on the off chance that enough people are.
Yeah, I would love it if everyone can make it, especially with a 9:30 a.m. meeting on a Wednesday. that isn't, there are people for whom, in this world, for whom that is way more accessible than a 6 PM meeting. That isn't necessarily the case for the board members, and fully respect that. So yeah, that's,
Okay. It was just, it crossed my mind in relation to the idea of what we were discussing for quorum for master plan steering
Yeah.
committee.
no, that way, if there can be 3 of us, which is wonderful, or all 4, we can still, that means we can talk to each other
Right.
and not have to weirdly be silent while the meeting's going on and talk to other people, but never to each other, and thoughtful about how we talk to other people. Yeah,
Sure.
avoiding that open meeting law issue. Which, open meeting law is great, it does require forethought. Public comment. Seeing none. Board comment or concerns? Again, seeing none. Friends, our last item is to adjourn. Do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bangarang. Thank you, everyone out there in TV land, for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful time. We'll see you at our 2 upcoming info sessions. Attend one or both if you're super into it. And we will see you otherwise on the 23rd. Have a good night, everybody.